Hello there, Comic Clan, and welcome to Comics in the Cross, the greatest streamers that you have never heard of. Of course, I'm one of your hosts, as always, Cross, joined, of course, by my co-host, Nitro, who's up here. Nitro, say hello to the lovely people.
How's it going?
Okay.
Hello, everybody.
Okay, we literally just started. Locke, how did you get timed out already? Like,
Wow.
Skeet's literally timed out Locke. What the heck did you say?
Oh, he posted a picture, that's why. Lock steady.
No pictures.
Skeet
doesn't like pictures, Locke. Sorry about that. Of course, we are not alone today. We're bringing you so much content this weekend. We already had an interview and a special podcast a couple of days ago, and we're back again with another very special guest up in my other corner right here. Brannon Hollingsworth from Brainy Pixel Productions is joining us. Brannon, say hello to the lovely people
everybody.
of the Comic Clan.
Hello, Comic Clan. How are you? From foggy Alabama.
Thanks for joining today, Brandon.
Yeah,
really
thank you so much for coming on the show.
Absolutely.
This is an absolute pleasure to have you
guys,
on.
I am so stoked to be on today. I'm looking forward to it. So.
Yeah, it should be a pretty awesome day. We've got a lot of stuff to cover. Brainy Pixels is, if any of you do follow them on social media, they are a very, very busy organization. They have so many things going on right now. Like, to the point of, like, I had to literally look through everything they're talking about and prioritize what is the best things to talk about in this show, because we're not going to hit everything. There's no way in the world we're going to do that. So we have some amazing stuff coming up, and we're going to be having Brannon talk a little bit about Brainy Pixel, talking about some of the projects they've got going on, and also showing off some of the artwork and stills from different things that I've got all set up to show and let all of you see what's taking place. So we've an exciting day today. We really do.
Yeah. Some of that stuff is world premiere, Cross, by the way. Some of that stuff no one has ever seen before.
Yeah, like, Brannon has been so awesome to let us get a look at some of this stuff, and I've seen it obviously already. Nitro's not even seen it yet. Like, I've seen it because I've got it loaded up for the podcast, and some of this stuff looks amazing. Like, some of this artwork and the ideas that are coming, I cannot wait to show and share with all of you. We are going to delve into some news to begin, but right before we talk about the news, I'm going to talk about, right above Brannon over on this side on the screen, you can see Gamergrind Co., the sponsor for the Comics in the Cross podcast. As always, they've been with us for a long time. If you want to get yourself some absolutely amazing coffee, go and check out Gamergrind Co., the #1 coffee for gamers. Use that link in the chat to go and get yourself some amazing coffee, and use Comics in the Cross at checkout to save 5%. Also, while you're there, why not pick up a Comics in the Cross coffee mug? Because, you know, why wouldn't you? Of course you're going to pick up the coffee mug. The coffee mug is awesome.
You know you want to support us. Come on now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Why wouldn't you? Also, as well, for anyone who has missed our previous shows and missed, like, our interview we did on Friday with Ahmed Alamin or anything like that, everything we do, from our interviews, from our podcasts, from my Monday Night Crossplay gameplay, everything is archived over on our YouTube, so you can click on that link and go and follow us there. Also, go ahead and follow us on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook there. And of course, we are so active on our Discord right now, so go ahead and check us out on that Discord link. One thing I want to get the Comic Clan thinking about today is, Brannon actually kind of came in the middle of the conversation as I was talking to Nitro. We've got in April coming up a 12-hour anniversary stream that we're going to be doing. We are going to be doing it as a fundraiser to raise awareness of autism awareness. I do have a meeting on Tuesday with an organisation that we're looking to raise the funds for, just to kind of talk to them, find out the statistics. But one of the things that I've been asking the Comic Clan is, what are some of the incentives that you would like us to do? Like, if we hit like $50 raised, we're going to do this. If we hit $100 raised, we're going to do this. You know, what are some of the things you want to see us do? Because we want to give you guys incentives. Some of the things
we want to make it super fun.
Yeah, we want to make it fun. We're going to be doing community games. We're going to be doing our Superhero Square Go, where we pit heroes and villains against each other. I have no idea why that didn't pop up there. I just realised in my stream. Thank you, Lady Salmakia, for that follow. Welcome to the Comic Clan. We appreciate it. Where is my alert gone? That is meant to pop up with an alert. Sorry,
I didn't see it either.
Yeah, the alert's disappeared.
How dare you, Twitch?
I'm going to need to add the alert back in for that. I am so sorry for that, but thank you so much, Lady Salmakia. I appreciate you coming and dropping a follow for us. Let me do a quick shout out for her as well. Sorry, that just totally derailed what I was saying. But I just seen it, I'm like, hey, that name wasn't there before.
Hey, while you're derailed, I just want to give you guys a little plug. So, for the listeners out there, what these guys are doing is amazing. They are doing it out of the love of the fandom out there and of comics and for Jesus. And so, go and support them. Get a coffee mug. Get a T-shirt if they're selling those. Get a hat. It's really, really challenging as a creative to do what you love and still be able to keep the lights on and pay for all the software that you have to purchase or the headphones or whatever it is. So as a guy who co-runs a creative company, I encourage you to support your creatives. It's just a few bucks and show these guys some love. So.
Oh, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate that, Brannon. That is 100% getting clipped along with Lewis Suther's guarantee from last week. And both of those are going to go in the opening video from now on. Hey, look, people like us.
That's going in the intro video. I'm just being honest.
Absolutely.
Yeah, anytime. Just let me know.
Okay, so that one.
They didn't ask me to do that. So.
Okay, so that one popped up. Why is that alert popping up? We just got a subscriber. J Durant Art 911. Thank you so much for that subscription.
Yeah, thank you.
You have jumped up to the Stan Clan level of the Comic Clan. Thank you so much.
Gotta throw the emote. Gotta throw the emote.
Throw up the Stanley emotes in chat for those that are subscribers. We have a new member of the Stan Clan subscription. There we go. Throw them up. And you, J Durant, actually have access to that emote along with our hype emote now that you are a member of that level. So thank you so much for that.
Or should have like a sound effect going Excelsior.
I know.
Yeah, I need to. In all honesty, having Excelsior pop up and screen, I'm already running the risk of like getting sued for that. I use it in all like the promos and stuff, and technically Stan Lee's company still owns the copyright for that, so I'm already
just change the last letters, so just call it like Excelsior.
Excelsius. You can't sue me now. Excelsius.
Or you could make it like a Christian things and Excelsior, right? And do a Latin.
You go.
Oh, there we go. We could go Latin Excelsior instead. There we go.
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea, actually. I might do that. Because like, every time I say Excelsior, like I want to show tribute to Stan Lee, but at the exact same time, I'm like, one of these days we're going to get big enough that becomes an issue. I don't know when, but it will be.
Hey, Cross, I'm the idea guy, man. Anytime you need something, give me a call. I'm the idea guy.
Hey, I will absolutely do that. I will actually pick your brain on that, Brannon.
Speaking of ideas, I've got an idea for your 12-hour your something you could do for your folks for your autism thing, your awareness thing.
Yeah, absolutely. What you got?
So, what if you guys had a challenge that when you reach a certain dollar level, then like the first request for a cosplay, like a 10-second cosplay, you guys have to jump up with just what's around you. You have to make the best cosplay for that character and show yourself on camera.
That would be awesome. Really that would be awesome. I'm going to have to rig the room a little bit with certain things, but like absolutely.
Box of supplies right by your chair.
Just a box of supplies is like, and go.
Yeah.
That's actually not a bad idea. That's
really good.
That's actually a really good one. And because I was struggling with ideas, like because I don't know how much money we're going to raise. We're a very small community. We're not like massive, so we're not hitting like the thousands of dollar mark here. You know what I mean? If we get a couple of hundred, I'll be happy. But some of the ideas that were thrown out there was for me to dye my hair a different color. That one does not relate to Nitro because he's bald.
Because I'm definitely bald, but I'm on video all day too, so I don't know how that would fly over.
Yeah, so it's like he's on video all day as well, so he's already ruling out like when he regrows his beard, dyeing that as well. So I need him to do something if I dye my hair, and I'm willing to go all in. By the way, if I do the hair dye, I'm willing to go in like bright pink, green, blue, whatever. I'm willing to go in. I'm not on video all day except for this, so I have no issues with that at all. One of the other big suggestions was us doing Bean Boozled. So like for every $15 we raise, we do a Bean Boozled challenge where both Nitro and I will like spin the wheel and eat a jelly bean, and hopefully it'll be a lovely, nice flavor and not a disgusting, horrible I want to throw up flavor.
Whoever suggested that, you are a jerk.
Yeah. So that's an incentive that's been thrown out there. I was also throwing the idea out of us doing different drinks and stuff, such as like the ranch soda, the bacon soda, the PB&J soda, things like that.
Eat the beans.
Eat the beans. Thank you. See, Teos wants the beans. I might even have been Teos that suggested it actually in our Discord. Now that I think about it.
Yeah, it was
but
yeah, it was.
But guys, go ahead
right now.
Yeah,
banned.
but guys, Go ahead and jump in our Discord, get your ideas in there for the 12-hour stream, not just for the incentives, but what you guys want to see us do. Because if we're going to be sitting on stream for 12 hours, we want to do stuff that you guys are going to enjoy seeing. We want to put out content that you guys are going to love for 12 hours. Because we can sit and do whatever, but like if nobody's showing up, it kind of defeats the purpose of us doing a 12-hour stream, you know? So yeah, so absolutely go and join.
A trivia contest would be good. You know, you guys could always challenge another podcast, maybe like Creatively Christian, podcast that I'm an anchor host for, and we could do like a comics trivia thing, or maybe just a geek media kind of trivia thing, you know, like a contest, and whoever loses has to toss, you know, $10 a host in or something like that.
Oh, that'd be interesting. Oh, here we go. Locke's back. He's like, okay, now that I'm out of jail. I always forget that Twitch thinks anything with a dot extension is a link, even when it isn't. Yeah. Locke, you got time now for quite a while there then, if that's you just getting back in now.
Like an hour.
Dang. I type Spider-Man point at Spider-Man dot JPEG just to be like, hey, well thrown, and I thought it was a link. That's awesome.
10 minutes. Good grief.
It's 10 minutes.
Yeah, I could probably drum up a team. If you guys can drum up a couple more team members, and we can do a trivia contest. And
yeah, I'm sure we could drum up a couple of other people. I'm pretty sure like Infinity Bros and stuff would be up for it. And
yeah, have the audience submit questions. You know, like what color were Thanos' boots in issue 121 of, you know, Uncanny Avengers or something like that. You know, and we'd have to figure out the answer or lose or just an idea.
Yeah, I'm up for that. Actually. Family Feud style comic trivia. Like, look, that'd be a great idea. It's like that's awesome, Brian. Actually, I might
reveal how much I don't know about comics. It's awesome.
It would be fun and hilarious.
I'm gonna watch those 1.5-hour comic YouTube videos that explain all runs. I'm just gonna do it for like weeks ahead of time.
Just weeks ahead, just to get caught up on everything possible.
Comic story, and there we go. I'm coming for you, man.
Yeah, I got a comic story and Comics Explain, some of those guys. I've got like the big explanation videos. Alright, so we do have a couple of news things that came up this week. Not quite as much as we did last week. There was a lot of stuff that Disney dropped like last week for Marvel. But we do have a couple of news points. I just want to quickly hit some of those. The first one was an interesting one, and I don't know if it's fully been confirmed or if it's just kind of a rumour at this point. But apparently, over at Warner Brothers and HBO Max, they are looking to make a sequel series to Batman the Animated Series.
I saw that.
So
I heard it was a redo. Is it a redo or is it a sequel?
I heard that it was a sequel series.
Okay.
I heard it was that. Hold on, Locke's throwing something. Any chance you can turn Brannon up? Just a teensy bit in Discord. He's a little bit quieter than you and Nitro. Is there any way you can turn your mic up a little bit, Brannon? Because I can turn it up here, but it's going to turn Nitro up too.
Let me see. In Discord?
It sounds good in my ears.
Yeah, because it's sounding good for us. Like, I don't want to turn him up on my thing and like.
Better?
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds good to me, but it sounded good before, so.
Yeah, let me turn them up a little bit, and I'll try and just keep letting us know about that volume lock if we need to fix anything of it, because I want to try and get us all even.
So Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill, or get out, is my opinion. Get out of the room.
I agree, Nitro.
If they're not even at the table.
See, that's the thing as well, though.
I agree.
That's the big thing. Like, I love Kevin Conroy. He is the animated Batman. Anything you do,
he's the animated Batman.
He is that level of Batman. Is he able to come back and play Bruce Wayne like he did, though? Because like he's now 70 years old. He's in his 70s now.
I mean, he's done recent stuff though with the voice, and I'm not saying he sounds just like he did in the animated series, but he sounds good. Like, because that's Batman for me. Like that voice is Batman for me. So even if it's slightly different, I would be okay with that.
Thank you so much for that, Locke. Sorry, Locke just Locke's just giving me a tip on how to turn Brannon up himself. I did not know this was a thing. Apparently, I can like right-click you and just turn your volume up. Thank you so. Okay, Locke. Look, this is why you've got a VIP badge in our chat. Absolutely, like you're like an unofficial member of the team at this point.
Helps us out in technical issues, and it's awesome.
Locke is like the unofficial techie of Comics in the Cross.
Person. We have an IT person on staff.
Yay, Locke! Excelsior!
So,
Excelsior.
What were you saying?
Oh, I was just saying, it's not like, if he's 70, that's fine. His voice is going to sound a little bit different, but it's not like he's not doing mocap or anything, right?
Yeah.
He's just delivering a voice. So
Yeah.
it's not like he's having to do an action scene at 70. He could be sitting in a chair with a tea in his hand, and Batman. So
I still remember when I found out that Luke Skywalker voiced the Joker. I was like, my brain exploded. Like, that is not him. There's no way that is him. And it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty awesome.
Sorry guys, like I don't know who it is, but somebody's mic, something's kind of scraping the mic a little bit or something. I'm getting a little bit of static off it.
Yeah, I keep hearing it as well. So.
Is it still there?
Yeah.
It's
every time
it's a mic, but like I'm not being facetious. It's for real. It's probably me.
Every time I hear it, your square goes green in Discord. So I think it is your mic, Nitro.
Or it's not coming through the stream. Oh, is it not coming through the stream? Okay, as long as it's not coming through the stream lock, it's like I can deal with static on our end as long as people in the chat aren't here. I just don't want over the top of the podcast, But yeah, like that's the thing. I was like, I'm definitely up for Kevin Conroy doing it, and I'm like, but at the very least, you're gonna have to have some sort of backup. I think just in case, not to say anything's going to happen to him, but the man is in his 70s. You have to prepare if you launch a brand new series with a man in his 70s, he might not be there to finish it. Just
that's true.
Just being honest, like at the age he's at, I mean, because he's been playing Batman for forever, so
yeah,
and I'm all for that.
He should go a whole new direction. I mean, I really liked the aesthetic of Gotham and just everything in general. It was like a neo 50s vibe, and I really dug it.
Yeah,
I hope they keep somewhat in the same.
All the cars and all the architecture, they were so stylized, but they still harken back to. Yeah, they still harken back to a period that you could kind of go, yeah, I could see that as being, real. So it was really, really neat.
Teos, really, man, like it's like always more Kevin Conroy, who is 65, is the perfect voice. I'm like, okay, I was 5 years off, give me a break. He's still an old age pensioner at this point, it's like he's still like the point still stands, okay? My big concern, I think, isn't the fact of like Kevin Conroy doing it, is are we going to get Mark Hamill back for it? Because like for me, he's the definitive Joker. Animated, he's done video games, he's done everything.
Yeah.
But he did say that he was pretty much done with the Joker. The only thing that would have brought him back was Killing Joke, and he came back and did Killing Joke.
Okay.
But then again, do you want that to be the end of your legacy though? Because Killing Joke wasn't exactly amazing.
It was not that great. There was one recent animated movie from DC where the guy sounded similar to Mark Hamill. I can't remember which one it was, but it was a little more low key, and I was like, "That's really good." Like I thought it was really good. I can't remember which one it was, honestly.
No, absolutely. No, definitely.
There's one thing that you have to remember, about actors and actresses and what shows they will or won't do, is that at the end of the day, these guys and gals, they got bills, right? They got bills to pay, and when it comes time to pay the mortgage, you might do something that you had not originally considered that you would do. And like, oh well, I said I would never do that, but I got to pay a payment on that car that I bought last year. So,
absolutely.
These people, generally speaking, while they might be at a level far and above where we are financially, they're still got bills to pay.
Oh yeah, they still got bills to pay.
They got to go do work.
Well, I think always a great example of that was in Star Wars when Harrison Ford was pretty much done with it and moved on with his life until they held up a big fancy check in front of him for Episode 7, and he came running back to the franchise. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, they had to kill him off to get him back, but the man who said he would never play the role again came back and played the role. Just never say never.
That check, I could buy the rest of Montana, so I'm coming back. So.
Yeah, absolutely. For the check that he got written, I'm not surprised he said yes. What I mean? I'm like, yeah, 100%, I'll come back for that. Absolutely. Chat's just saying, Nitro, that Locke can hear the static a little bit one of the last times you spoke. It's definitely coming through for your side.
Is it? Shoot. Hold on. I'll try to play it.
It's not as bad right this second.
Yeah, it's not bad right now, but every so often there's just a little flare of static, so I don't know if it's just a connection thing or whatever. But yeah, if they're going to go ahead and do this and do it like the original animated series of Batman, from the 90s, I'm all for them continuing that. I mean, Batman the Animated Series is still to this day heralded as one of the best TV shows, one of the best cartoons ever put out there. You know, for anyone who is a fan of superheroes and comic books and whatever, like, that's always an influence in a lot of people's lives. Like, I read comic books, but yeah, I watched Batman the Animated Series. It's one of those shows, you know. And at the same time, it's already...
Have you guys ever...
No, on you go, Bran.
Yeah, I was just saying, have you guys ever read, like, the pitch package that the guys and gals that pitched that show, the amount of work that they went into for that pitch package?
No, I've never read the pitch package for it. I can only imagine how insane the pitch must have been for it.
It's so well done. First of all, you know, this is kind of getting into my world where when you go to pitch an animated series, you really have to do a ton of work on the front end. A lot of people say, "Oh, well, I got a log line. That's all I need. You know, I can describe it in one sentence." But I mean, that pitch package, I think it was like 80-something pages long.
Wow.
They had all this character art done already. They had vehicles. They had locations already done and sketched out. And the writing as well was just so well done in that pitch for that show. And I really think that led to part of its success, you know, is that it just... They had already sorted out so many story, character, developmental issues before they ever did the first script. Yeah. Just in the pitch, that it was super strong out of the gate. So it was a really, I think that led to the success of the show, honestly.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like, it's a one of a kind show. Like, there wasn't another show like it when I was growing up. There wasn't at all. It's like, and it was so well thought out. You could tell it was so well planned. It was so methodical. And I think the thing I appreciated that not a lot of, like, you know, animated shows and cartoons for kids, especially today, really delve into is the fact of, like, they didn't dumb anything down. They were honest about these are the stakes, this is what Batman's going through. They showed real adult emotions, and they helped teach kids, like, this is stuff that can happen. This is like stuff that you go through in life. And I feel like that was something a number of cartoons did when I was younger, and they just don't anymore. Like, they almost avoid some of that, apart from the odd one here and there, you know, like I'm thinking stuff like Avatar and Gravity Falls and different things today, like, absolutely hit those notes, but for the most part they don't. Batman was just at a whole other level of hitting that, and if they can recapture that...
There were very few cartoons where, like, I couldn't stop thinking about it as I was on my way home from school to watch the new episode, and that was one of them. That was one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, I mean, that was Saturday morning viewing for me. That with along with the X-Men cartoon and the Spider-Man cartoon, like, that was part of my watching that helped build my love for comics and superheroes. 100%.
Next nearest to Batman animated series is X-Men animated series, but unquestionably the superior one in many ways.
Yeah,
so
X-Men was phenomenal.
I have a very soft spot for X-Men and Spider-Man, but if you go back, like, it doesn't age super well.
X-Men ages better. Spider-Man has not aged well.
Just like, wow, this is, like, some of this is really good. I'll still watch it, but
oh yeah, absolutely. Like, I still got that nostalgia for it, but like, it's definitely aged as a 90s cartoon. Just want to shout out to Frostbite, who's managed to pop into chat. I'm so glad you can join us, Frostbite. Excuse me, just doing a shout out for him. Go ahead, click on that link and give Frostbite some love over there. He's a good friend of ours and does a lot of good gaming stuff, and works with Love Thy Nerd, another organization that's doing a lot of cool nerdy stuff over there. So definitely go and check him out. So jumping on from there to the next topic is we had a couple of casting. And I have to be honest, like, I don't really know the people that well that are in the casting announcement. And the first one was we got our second person cast in the She-Hulk Disney Plus show. We already had She-Hulk cast, but we now have Ginger Gonzaga, if I'm saying that name even close to correctly, who has been cast as Jennifer Walters' best friend in the show apparently, but we don't have a name on the specific character yet. I don't know that much about her as an actress. Like, even looking up shows she was in, like, I don't think I've ever seen her in anything. I don't know if you're able to see anything, Nitro. You usually look this stuff up.
I can't see.
But I'm like, there's nothing of major that I've kind of like I've seen her in that I know of. So, if anyone's a fan of her out there, you know, she's going to be appearing in She-Hulk, and I'm all for it, to be honest, because like Disney has been killing it with the Marvel stuff recently and the casting, and especially when they cast like unknowns. You know what I mean? They cast unknown actors in these massive roles and or in different things, and they always pull it off. So like I've no doubt that that'll happen again. The next one was for the Titan show coming on HBO Max. There was already a big massive push because we were getting Red Hood on the show, and they'd announced who Red Hood was going to be. But we now have a casting for Barbara Gordon is going to be on the show as well, and played by Savannah Welch. Another actress who I don't know a lot of. It looks like she's done a few more things than Ginger does, but like I still don't know her desperately well. But the main thing here is like the out of nowhere announcement that we're going to be getting Barbara Gordon on Titans. No confirmation as of yet as to what version of Barbara we're going to get though, whether it's going to be Batgirl or Oracle. So it'll be interesting to see what road they go with that. The obvious road to go is Batgirl, because that's who she is in the comics right now. That's who she's most famously known for. Personally, I'm a bigger fan of Oracle. I think returning Barbara Gordon, the use of her legs by some whatever medical cure they used, I think was a really bad mistake. I think like you had an amazing opportunity for this brand new role for her as a hacker in the DC world. And not to mention representation of paraplegics in comics, which there is not, like in any level.
Yeah.
Not to mention the fact of there was other women to take the role of Batgirl over. Two, in fact, you had both Cassandra Cain and Stephanie Brown, you know.
Yeah, I think that really harkens back to a really good character development decision that DC made back in the comics, right? When they decided to make that happen to Barbara and then continue it. Yeah. And use that not as an end to a character, but kind of an evolution to a character. I mean, that's one of the things that I think is missed so much in comics and in comics-based movies is we have this always this return to the beginning state, and that's in storytelling. That's the worst thing you can do. You know, in storytelling, you want to start with the world as it is now, and when you're done, the world and the characters need to have changed. We need to go on that journey and see that progression, see the change in the character.
Yeah,
and it absolutely does. It grows the world, it grows the story, and I think that's what audiences want. Honestly, I don't think they want to see the same character in situ, never changing forever. That gets boring, you know. But
no, absolutely,
I think if they do.
That's absolutely one of my big issues now with like Marvel and DC Comics specifically, and one of the reasons I think I'm kind of drawn to a lot more of, like, we do our indie comic book club as part of the show, where we delve into comics that are coming out independently and comics that are part of the other publishers that are not part of the big two, because there is this whole other world of comics out there, but a lot of them are linear stories and a lot of them have ends to them. Like one of the first comics we did was Lock and Key, you know, phenomenal series, phenomenal comic book, but there's 6 volumes to it, and they've came back to do like kind of offshoots of like the Lock and Key world, but like the main story is those 6 volumes, and then it's done. It's a beginning, middle, and end, and the characters progress through that story, and that's it. That's the story. And with Marvel and DC, it's very much
I think, and I think ultimately that comes down to a battle between two things. One, you have a creator battle, right? And I can speak to this personally because I went through this with my novel H2O. I co-authored a novel several years ago called H2O, which is a speculative Christian novel. And it was always meant to be just one book, and that's it. Never have a sequel, anything like that. But the publisher really wanted a trilogy, and so there was this back and forth. And we could have written other stories in the trilogy, but ultimately we decided that really wasn't the right way to go. It just didn't feel authentic, right?
Yeah.
And so, and hey, that's walking away from money, right? And ultimately, that's what the creator has to select or has to choose: is I want to serve the story, or do I want to serve my pocketbook? And studios also have that problem, like Lock and Key, I think, is a great example, where you kind of have this runaway hit, I think one of the things that made it a runaway hit is that it was a complete and fulfilling story.
Mm-hmm.
And when
Absolutely.
you try and drag that out or carbon copy that, it loses authenticity and it loses fan support. And, fans are smart. And I think studios and creators would be smart to listen to them.
That's why when you see shows on TV that it's a very it's not like 28 seasons, it's not like 15 seasons, but it's like a succinct a 6th season, and the whole thing is an arc and it ends. And those are the types of stories that people, I think, enjoy the most.
Yeah,
there's a beginning, a middle, and end, like you said, Cross.
I think
I think that's why Stranger Things did so well. The first season of Stranger Things, it was the same sort of story, very tight, very interconnected, but it was complete. I'm glad they had more seasons, but you didn't have to. You could have walked away from it satisfied.
Yeah,
and I think stories like that resonate.
I think the big thing with creative stories, and at least it's something I found, in terms of TV shows especially, it's something I've definitely found with American TV shows after moving here to the States and shows that we got in the UK. UK shows are very short seasons. You can have a UK show that's got 6 episodes in a season, and it's got a few seasons to it, and that's it. The story's told. It's and there's not an urge to go back to it. That's just the story. And it's whereas in America, it's almost like companies do stuff to death. They will run stuff into the ground.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And we've talked about it a couple of times, even with comic book shows like The Flash and Supergirl and stuff like that on the CW. First couple of seasons of them are great, and then they just start to go downhill, and it's like this show should have ended a long time ago. This is just not entertaining, and I think comics are this weird world as well, of where you have to listen to the fan base, but you also have to ignore the fan base at the same time, because the fans want all the toys put back in the box, to the point now whenever a creative team changes on a book, they have to do whatever the story is. I think we talked about it last week, with Hydra Cap in the Secret Empire story that was done, and he's now the head of Hydra and he's now the big bad guy. But at the end of Secret Empire, all the toys are back where they were because we need to have Captain America back, and it's actually a topic I really want to delve into on an episode of the podcast at some point. Of should they progress? One of the big ones was One More Day from Spider-Man, when the writers basically all went, oh, we can't write interesting stories anymore because Spider-Man's married and he's having a kid, so let's take him back to being single, let's erase the marriage, let's take all of that away, regardless of the fact that there was a massive fan outcry of that doesn't make sense, that's stupid. They still did it, and it's well, actually, at the rate Peter is, shouldn't Peter be in his 30s or 40s? Wouldn't it be amazing to see him as a kind of mentor role now? Especially to someone like Miles Morales, who's in the same universe with him now, have him be the main Spider-Man and Peter almost kind of his mentor figure, his Uncle Ben sort of character that he looks up to and that he learns the lessons from, and
Yeah, well, and also you have the dynamic of Peter as a dad, right? I mean, there's a lot of responsibility there, and what's Peter's line, right? With great power comes great responsibility. Well, now you can flip that on its head, right? With great responsibility becomes great power.
Yeah.
There's so many stories you can tell to kind of grow that character and tease out that dynamic and what's going on in Peter's personal life and with his children, versus his superhero guys, right? I mean, there's so much you can do with that.
Yeah.
And I think what it really requires brave storytelling, and like you said, sometimes you have to ignore the fans, but sometimes you have to listen to them. But you just got to be brave in your storytelling. One of the things you mentioned about UK shows, one of the shows my wife and I love, we don't watch a lot of TV in my house, but one of the shows that we loved when it came out was Shetland, which you're probably very familiar with, Cross. And actually the whole season, one episode. It's just one long episode of Shetland. It's kind of a cop drama, right? Where, at the beginning there's a problem and he solves that problem by the end of six shows. But all those shows, you could pack them all together, the whole season, and it's really one long narrative. It's just one story.
Yeah, it's there's no filler, no extra, just this story and that's your story. Yeah, absolutely.
It's just amazing storytelling.
Humor in the chat says this is what Marvel Spider-Man game does so well. I would echo that 100%. Just having finished the game, and just having him live his life and actually grow up in the game, and be live in the decisions that he's made, and then become the mentor to Miles actually in the game, and seeing him like be kind of like that father role. That's really cool.
Yeah, and I think that's what he should have been, and I think that's the thing. There's so many characters like that. Like Locke even said it in chat. Like we got to see that with Batman and like Batman Beyond. We got to see Terry McGinnis become the new Batman and Bruce Wayne become a mentor figure because he physically could not do it anymore. And it's like, but yet in the comics, like so many people have taken on the mantle of Batman, and then it always reverts back to Bruce. Like, you know, like one of my favourite Batman runs is the Grant Morrison run where Dick Grayson is Batman. And this whole new world of storytelling opens up because you've got this fun-loving kind of Batman character because it's Dick Grayson, and then you've got like this little angry Robin because Damian Wayne's brought in and he is literally Bruce Wayne as a kid, you know. It's like, and it changes the dynamics of it, but at the same time, at the end of that, it was all put back, and we've seen that as well with stuff like Sam Wilson. We're about to see that in the show, Sam Wilson becoming Captain America from his role as Falcon. Captain America had lost the super soldier serum. Yeah, he took up the mantle, and we had a black Captain America who was doing a totally different level of storytelling. He's not a super soldier. He's not, you know, the level of Captain America. He doesn't have all this history, and he was facing stuff, you know. And one of the things they talked about was like, you know, especially today's country, the racial issues of like how much racism has been talked about in the last year, and having a black Captain America, a black representative of that, and it's like. But yeah, no, we're going to make him Falcon again and give it back to Steve Rogers. And it's like, why? You've made all this progress. People are mad. It's like, people are always mad. Because people don't... Because comic book fans don't like change. They want you to keep entertaining them, but don't you dare change anything. Like, that doesn't work.
No, that's really, really hard to do.
That's not storytelling.
That's really hard.
Yeah, it's like I want to be entertained, but like you can't progress the character of this person in any meaningful way. Like, no, they can't get married, and I'm like, but that's what real people do. No, they can't have kids. That's what real people do. They can't have like these things where they step away from the role. That's what happens in real life. Yeah. Why are we not allowed to show that?
Yeah, you know what happens when you aren't allowed to progress the character, but you must entertain more. It's Scooby-Doo. That's what the end product is. Every episode is the same exact thing.
It's the same thing, and like I've literally lived to the point now. Like I'm in my 30s now, and I am literally at the point where I've been reading comic books so long that I keep seeing stuff come back now. I'm seeing stuff where I'm like, you did that already.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And it's not even just the fact you did it already. The fact is that you're pitching it like you didn't.
Yeah. Exactly.
You're pitching it to me like this is a new idea. Like, I get that you have to redo certain things because of the way the fans are, but just be honest about it, that this is like, hey, this happened before, right? You know.
And I think this is a great discussion. I mean, you got 12 hours to fill, you know, for y'all's event. So hey, I'm happy to come back on. We can talk for hours about this topic.
I've got to say this will take up the 12 hours at this point. You know.
I'm all for deep diving it. So yeah, if you have me back on, let me know. I'll show up for that 12-hour thing. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I could keep ranting on this forever, but look, we're already like at the 45-minute mark, and there's one other news topic I wanted to throw out there, and then we can actually start delving into the. This happens. We said this last week with Lewis. Like this happens. Like rants happen, and we just go off on one in the show, and it's okay. It's okay. This happens.
That's right.
You are much quieter than Brannon.
Yeah, I just saw that. I ticked down my volume just a tad to try to curb some of the static, but I just turned it back up a little bit. So
it's okay. I can turn you up on my side a little bit.
Okay. I just didn't want the static.
Sounding good here.
Distracting. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Now that I know I can do it on my side from here, which I didn't know was a thing, I can mess with that now, which is really helpful. So yeah, the last news, you may have seen it. I posted it on our social media this week. Literally came out like a couple of days ago. There is a rumour now floating around for the Fantastic Four movie that we might have our Doctor Doom, that we could be seeing Michael Fassbender take on the role of Doctor Doom.
That's what I'm talking about.
Michael Fassbender, of course, to the comic book community, to the geek world, is of course Magneto from the X-Men First Class, Days of Future Past, Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix movies, which he was one of the few enjoyable points of some of those movies.
He was. I think he was outstanding as Magneto.
Yeah, he was a really great choice for that, and if you've been watching this show for any length of time, you know I'm a massive Doctor Doom fan. Like, he is my villain of Marvel. He is like the potential to be bigger than Thanos level threat, in my opinion. And I am all in on Michael Fassbender being Doctor Doom. I think he would crush that role. I think he could portray all levels of it. I'm like, I really hope this ends up being true.
I mean, it's proven he can do accents. So let's hear that Sokovian, or not Sokovian. Was he Latvian accent?
Latvian.
Yeah, like I'm all in for Fassbender being Doctor Doom. Like, I'm good with that.
Yeah, I'm pumped for it. I would like to see him put on a little bit of muscle, but whatever.
It's all right. He's gonna be wearing metal armor anyway. You won't see the muscle. He literally wears that.
They're not gonna immediately throw him in that though.
Yeah, they are.
He's too pretty of a dude. He's too pretty of a dude for them to immediately put a mask on his face. You know he's going to be...
We're going to get flashbacks and stuff of what Victor Von Doom looked like, but we're going to go to Latveria, and he's going to be sitting in that throne in the full armor. It's like mask on and everything. Like, and I trust Feige to do that because he's been like that with everything. Like,
there was a handful of people that were... Go ahead.
I was just saying, this just announced cross-directing Fantastic Four. That's what it sounds like.
There you go. I don't even want to direct Fantastic Four. I'll direct a Doctor Doom movie. Like, I'll deep dive that and go into Doctor Doom's backstory, man. I'm all for it.
Dude, there was a handful of people.
Just sound like you were setting it up.
Yeah,
I'm a handful of people that were announced for his casting, and he was one of them that I was super excited about.
Oh,
Mads
yeah.
Mikkelsen was another one, but obviously he played in Doctor Strange. So
it's all right. He could play Doom.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's going to be the mask.
I think it might be. That's true.
It's the equivalent of, like,
I'm a huge fan of his.
It's the equivalent of this. We talked about it last week. Deadpool 3's happening. Do you really think Josh Brolin's not coming back as Cable?
That's true.
Thanos is gone, and even if he wasn't, they don't look the same. One's a voiceover with, like, mocap, the other one's him. So, like, you really think he's not coming back to play Cable again?
That's true.
Like, of course he's coming back. They're Josh Brolin as Cable. They're going to bring him back, and he's already got a relationship with the company.
So Locksteady says, the fact that they skipped the Uncle Ben bits of Spider-Man gives me hope that we can get a Doc Doom without having to meet Von Doom first. I don't know about that, Lock, because, like, I think most everyone knows the origin of Spider-Man. Like, his Uncle Ben dies. I don't know. I don't know if a lot of people know the origin.
I think we're going to
everything about the origin.
I think we're going to have to get a little bit of Von Doom, but I think, like I said, I think a lot of it will be flashback stuff. Because, like, I don't think we're going to get, like, the previous Fantastic Four movies where we dive into them getting their powers, and this is how Von Doom was made, and I think we'll get the setup for the Fantastic Four, but I think any Von Doom stuff is going to be Victor and Reed, like, flashback to them at college together.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things that I've really enjoyed about the Marvel movies is that we don't have to necessarily sit through an origin story for every villain we encounter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we can just accept them as a villain, and their presence and their performance and their writing brings the villain. We don't have to know where Thanos was born, right? We don't have to know how he became the Mad Titan, right? We get a little bit of that, but
he's still fleshed out though. He's still a fleshed out character. You know, we still get all of that story to him.
Yeah, he feels real, and I love how Marvel is doing that. And that's just down to good writing and really good directing. So I don't think we have to have necessarily a Doctor Doom origin story.
And Locke in chat saying as well, Killmonger and Black Panther is also a great example of that. We don't have to delve into the full backstory of the villain, but we get enough to build a deep character. And also, thank you, official MXG, for that host. And no worries about being late, man. He just woke up. Like, thank you for popping in, man. Like,
I feel like Winter Soldier is a good example of that too. Like, I feel because I think the Russo brothers one time I was listening to like a commentary from them, and they were like, we don't ever like, what is it like have dialogue or whatever, just to kind of have dialogue to explain to the audience what's happening. Like, it always serves a purpose. The dialogue always moves the story forward. And they're like, we try to do multiple things at once. Like, there's dialogue and there's action, and it's pushing the story forward. And I think they did the same thing with that movie. Yeah.
That's the first lesson you learn if you really study screenwriting, is that every word on the page is there for a reason. I mean, every preposition, every article, every word, it has to move the story forward.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, cut it.
Yeah.
Move it from the screenplay.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes sense. Like, what's it there for? It's like it's the whole preposition of like if you mention something in the story, there has to be a payoff for it. Otherwise, why was it there?
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely.
Not that, Adam. Thank you for coming in with that host. We appreciate it. Thank you for stopping by for our chat today. But yeah, absolutely, and I'm excited for the Fantastic Four. And like, I know a lot of people that aren't massive comic fans are kind of done with it at this point, and I don't blame them because the last few entries haven't been amazing.
You mean awful?
Yeah, they're awful. Yeah, they're awful. They're awful. Especially Fan Four Stick. You know, especially like what they did with that. I still don't know what they did. I still don't know what they did with that movie.
But a great model of breaking that pattern is Spider-Man, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, because how many Spider-Man movies did we have before, Marvel did it? And it blew everything else away, and now none of that stuff really exists in most fans' mind, and they just know the Marvel Spider-Man moving forward. So
it changed everything, and I think it's going to be the same.
I think they can do the same thing with Fantastic Four.
I will say, like, I appreciate what Fan Four Stick was attempting to do. Like, I get what they were trying to do. They were trying
see how much of a film you can record without lighting.
They were trying to give it a more serious spin and take it more serious, like a drastic turn from the previous two. I get it, but it was just awful.
I know, but it's like the comic's called Fantastic Four. If you ever flick through the early issues of Fantastic Four, it's like there's no way in the world to make that dark and gritty. It's not meant to be. Like, don't get me wrong, there are dark and gritty heroes out there. Fantastic Four are not one of them. It's like. But I trust this. I trust Marvel with it, and I trust seeing where it's going to go and what they can do with it. Because they've proven when they get properties back, like what they're capable of. We've seen that like when they done that with, like we said, Spider-Man, or when they got like Ghost Rider back and he showed up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like in different stuff. Like, I'm excited for the upcoming Blade movie now that we've got Blade back, and they've got all these characters starting to come back. Daredevil, another phenomenal example of it, of what Fox did with him compared to what Marvel did with him. It's night and day. So I can only imagine what they do with Fantastic Four.
In reading the Hickman's new Avengers and Fantastic Four, I'm super excited to see what Marvel's gonna do with them.
Oh yeah.
And I think that really speaks to the guys and gals that are at the helm of all of these movies. The kind of executive team. And number one, they've got a love of the comics.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell they love the source material, and so they are trying to go back to that source material and treat it like a fan would. Just like if you or me or Nitro got the opportunity to make a movie like this, we wouldn't write a new story.
Mm-hmm.
We'd go back and grab those amazing stories and try to just put a little bit of tweak on it to put our fingerprint on it, and then go, bam, make the best movie you can.
Yeah.
And I think that really speaks to why these movies have done as well as they have, is because the stories are proven. Millions of copies have been sold, so that's for a reason.
And definitely
not a good base to build on.
And
that Adam. Go ahead.
So I was just going to say, and that's it though, picking that creative team to it. Like, Kevin Feige being at that helm and knowing exactly where he wants to take things, and picking the creative team, they're almost as picky on that as they are on the actors.
Oh, yeah.
To make the perfect thing.
I would have loved to have been in the pitch meeting where he pitched this idea. I would give almost anything to have been a fly on the wall.
Absolutely.
He pitched the MCU. Can you imagine that pitch?
I know.
Not that Adam in chat says the problem with Fantastic Four, even in the MCU, is Reed Richards is almost too hard to make a sympathetic hero in the modern age. I kind of agree with that.
See, that's the thing though. It's like Reed's not meant to be though. At least in my opinion, he's.
I think though, a lot is going to hinge on who they cast, and I think if they're going the direction that I think they're going to go with John Krasinski, I think that will take a lot of the edge off of the character as I read him, as Hickman's writing him, like presently, I mean like 5 or 6 years ago, but that's like the best incarnation that I've read of Reed.
Yeah.
I think he'll take the edge off that a bit.
I'm not widely read on Fantastic Four, so this may have been done, but I can tell you if I was writing Fantastic Four, the way I would make Reed believable is that I would make him this, he's like so smart that he is just completely socially awkward.
Yes.
He's so brilliant, and he thinks on such a level that he just doesn't really work well in social situations around regular people. Yeah. And I think that would give him an element of relatability and lovability that audiences could attach to. It may have been done in the comics, I don't know. But
I think there's definitely stuff that's attempted that. The thing that kind of sticks out in my mind of the way that you could write Reed and still make him a character that people like and kind of relate to is it's almost kind of been done looking at another actor from the MCU, actually, looking at Benedict Cumberbatch and his portrayal of Sherlock in the BBC Sherlock show. Like
yes, like that.
Like the character is still likable and enjoyed by characters, but he's a complete sociopath. He completely has no clue how to interact with the normal, everyday person. His intellect has elevated him so far beyond, and it's like, and Reed kind of does that as well. They've kind of done that in a way which is kind of interesting, and I'm probably going to spoil stuff here for Nitro as he's reading the Fantastic Four, but it is like a 6-year-old story. But in Hickman's run, like you get like the Council of Reeds, where it's like all the Reeds from the different multiverses coming together. But one of the reoccurring things is the fact of like that most of them have gotten so caught up in the bigger picture that they've ended up becoming divorced and leaving their families and don't see their kids and all this sort of stuff. And it ends up being at the end of his run, that's what it's building to, is the fact of like that's what makes the 616 Reed different. Is he's the Reed that chose his family first. He's not he's not just as intellectual as any of the others, but he chooses his family over them, and that's what leads Franklin of the future, who's in the story, to make the decision he does to help his dad, because his dad chose the family over what all the other Reeds did, which was choosing the bigger picture. So there's definitely elements there of where you can make him relatable and still have him be this big intellect. Tony Stark, think about it, Tony Stark's technically on an intellect the same level as Reed to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And he's the most popular character in the MCU.
Right.
You can do it with Reed as well. It's just that you need to find a new way to do it.
Yeah, and again, I think we've seen that because we started with Tony here. He's gone through an arc, and now he's at the complete opposite end of that spectrum.
Yep.
He is at the beginning. He is the the millionaire, billionaire, playboy, self-centered, all about me. And when we end, he's a dad.
Yeah.
Loves his family and who loves an adopted son so much that he lays down his life. I mean that's a huge dramatic journey we've done.
Absolutely.
And that's why the audience loves him. They've watched him grow up.
Absolutely. And I think you can do a similar story with Reed. I think you can.
Sure.
Yeah, I would agree.
So just to shout out, note that Adam in the chat as well, saying during that Hickman run, he done the death of Johnny Storm, and it's one of the best things that he ever read until they revived him 3 months later. Yeah, they kind of does it. They did this whole big thing of the death of Johnny Storm. They even brought in Spider-Man as a replacement, and then Johnny's back. Yeah.
I'm assuming that's Hickman's run.
Yeah, that's Hickman's run.
Yet. Great.
Dude,
It's
okay.
6-7-year-old story is going to happen.
On anybody, I know.
So we are now hitting over the hour mark.
That's one of the things I didn't like about Infinity War is that they didn't keep more of the Avengers dead. They brought them back, and death lost its sting. I know we permanently lost some of them, but I think more of them should have been permanently dusted, and I think it would have been a slightly better movie. It was great, but I think it would have been better in my opinion.
Yeah, I think there was an impact taken away from that, but I think that was done in the writing though, simply because you could, like, everybody that like faded away was all the people that were in upcoming movies. It was all their new characters, so like they had to bring them back, and it's like, but at the same time, like I think that was done as a last hurrah for the original Avengers.
And they kind of, they got as much emotional weight out of it as they could, right? Because they left a year gap.
They did a good job.
You had to wait because you didn't know what was gonna happen. You had an idea what was.
At the same time, don't get me wrong. At the end of Endgame, I was still bawling my eyes out. I was still an emotional wreck by the end of that movie. Don't get me wrong. It's like it still wrecks me watching that movie.
It was bad.
Well, that's actually my favorite. But then again, Empire Strikes Back is my favorite of the original Star Wars trilogy. I just love those middle dark movies.
Yeah.
Everything is darkest before the dawn. I love those type movies.
Oh yeah. If you get those movies good, then they're really great movies. So I'm actually going to jump us forward, since we're now at about the hour mark and we've rambled about news long enough. And we do actually have Brannon with us today, so it'd be nice to actually talk to him about this, the stuff he actually does. Locke saying Empire's the best Star Wars movie for sure. So there you go, you got an agreement there. And yes, Locke. So, of course, we have with us today Brannon Hollingsworth from Brainy Pixel Productions, who is coming to join us today. And Brannon, you're probably not as well known among some of our comic clan as we'd like you to be. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, and a little bit about Brainy Pixel and exactly what it is.
Sure, absolutely. And it's again a pleasure to be on. I'm super excited, and I've been having a blast already, so I feel right at home. Again, my name is Brannon Hollingsworth. I am the Chief Creative Officer and Chief Operations Officer of a Christian animation and production studio called Brainy Pixel Productions. We're based out of North Alabama in the United States. And the studio has been around for about a decade or so, but we've mostly been doing YouTube type work, and we've done a lot of promotional work for local companies and businesses and things of that nature. But over the past couple of years, 3 years now, we just really felt like God leading us to do work that was more focused on creating content that glorifies Him and that brings people closer to the cross of Christ. And so we it was kind of a complete transition from what we were doing to what we're doing now. And not that we were making secular stuff before, but we were kind of working on our own projects and what we thought were going to bring success, what we thought were going to bring more money into the studio and our passion projects. And God really just kind of showed us that we really needed to work on content that He wanted us to create. And so we went from literally getting ready to close up shop, close down the business and walk away, to within a couple of months, after some intense prayer of God showing my business partner Michael and I that we needed to be working on a 3D full-length animated feature, which is a huge transition. You go from, hey, we're going to close our business, to, hey, we're going to make a movie. So it's just completely nuts. And so we began working on that. We worked on that for a year, are still working on that actually. And but from a year basically of God telling us, hey, you're going to make this movie, a year later we were sitting down with Hollywood producers, with people in the Christian film industry, entertainment lawyers who had worked on Chronicles of Narnia, and other major films, a studio out of Birmingham that's been involved in every Christian film that's been released over the past 20 years, who are now our mentors, in the film industry. And it was just an amazing transition to go from, hey, we're going to close up shop, to, hey, we're going to be making a movie at some point in the future. So along that path, the film that we're working on is under kind of super tight NDA at the moment, because everybody that we've spoken to, from Hollywood to Franklin, Tennessee, which is the center of Christian entertainment in the world, has said, don't tell anybody what you're working on. This is huge. And this is going to be amazing if you guys can pull it off. So as a studio, we want people to know what we're working on, and we want to kind of begin to build that fan base. Yeah. And so we said, well, what can we work on that's, maybe not as intensive, which a little bit shorter project, still a full product that we can release to the public, to begin, seeding the fields, building that kind of market share, building that fan base. And that's kind of what led us to Cubekins, which is a kids program, 3D animated Christian kids show that we just released a 22-minute pilot for. We self-funded and produced in 8 months, which is absolutely nuts in the 3D industry. And we released that back in November, and it's on sale now on Vimeo and on christiancinema.com. And we just got on Amazon Prime with it.
That's awesome.
You can get it on Prime. And we've got a couple of additional distribution channels that are coming on in the next month or two. And we're talking to some global organizations about doing additional work for Cubekins. And animated shows is just one of the things that we do at Brainy Pixel. We also are working on some comic properties. We've got lots of IPs that we're developing, and some of those have comics attached to them, such as a story that's near and dear to my heart, my Tenet's Tales series. We've also got a sci-fi action adventure called Fourth World 4. That'll be hopefully a 3D show, but we've also got a comic in the works. We've got another one called Divine 9. It's kind of like a Ben 10 meets Avatar: The Last Airbender. That's also got a comic attached to it. And I've got many other projects in the works as well that we can talk about if you guys are interested. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And for all those links I just threw up in chat, as Brannon mentioned, for Cubekins, if you follow them on social media, Brainy Pixel, there's been a lot of stuff happening with them. We're not going to delve massively into Cubekins today because it's not really for our audience, but I know some of you out there listening are parents. So there are all the links there for social media and also where you can pick up Cubekins on like Vimeo, on Christian Cinema, and on Amazon now. So go and check those out.
And if you do pick it up, please review it as well. We'd love to get some reviews from folks. So.
Yeah, get some reviews in there, let people know what you think. Also, just a shout out to Not That Adam. Thank you so much for that subscription. You're now part of the Stan Clan. But thank you so much for that sub. We absolutely appreciate it, brother. Excelsior. That's going to catch on.
Somebody said Ecclesia. I'm like, that works too.
Ecclesia, like, no, not quite the same feel to it.
That's even better.
But yeah, so thank you so much for coming in to talk about some of these projects. So the major one that we definitely want to delve into today is Tenet's Tale. Tenet's Tale is... We got the opportunity to look at the first issue of it, which is available on Gumroad at the moment. Which I like to point out, before I got the stuff for Tenet's Tale, I'd never heard of Gumroad, and now for 2 weeks in a row we've been interviewing people who have got stuff up there.
Yeah, I was like, that sounds familiar.
That's the same stuff where Lewis Suther's got his stuff going up, so I'm like...
Oh, that's right. Okay.
So like this is apparently going to become a thing, because we've now already got 2 creators putting stuff up there.
So we ran across Gumroad, and I've actually known about it for a while, and we just said, hey, I know you can sell PDFs on there, so let's throw it up there. That's a kind of quick path to direct to customer sales.
Yeah,
we're looking into Global Comics and some of the other platforms as well. So.
And I'm going to show as well, you can pull that up on the internet, but if you can see it on my phone there is actually a Gumroad app where you can get the stuff on your phone as well. So I actually have Tenet's Tale on my phone.
That's awesome.
Sweet.
Yeah, and Tenet's Tale's up there at a nice little price. They're asking for donations, but at least $1 on it. So like, if you want to pick it up and see, is this a series I want to delve into? It's not going to break your bank at the minute.
Yeah.
So yeah, like with Tenet's Tale, this was a really interesting comic to delve into. I'm trying to remember the way it was pitched when I first got it. Like it was like Hellboy meets something.
Yeah. So the way I pitch Hellboy is it's essentially the way I pitch Hellboy. I don't pitch Hellboy, or I'll get a cease and desist from Dark Horse. The way I pitch Tenet's Tales is it's a Christian Hellboy, right, or a Holy Witcher. It's been called a Holy
Witcher. That was the other one. Okay. I was trying to remember the other one, and I got a Witcher
vibe from it. Yeah.
And it very much is like it's. And honestly, even the art of it, like I have to mention this off the cuff because I'm going to pull up the first picture of it, like which is the cover of the first issue, for Troublemaker, and for Tenet's Tale, it's this really dark, gritty sort of feeling story, but yet it's got so much color to it, and the colors almost like just pop off the page.
Yes,
which is like, it's almost like it's like the opposite of what I expected. You expect it to be very dark and very grey and very sepia tone and very like not like that sort of way, and then they're like these bright greens and blues and all these colours like just pop off the page, and I'm like, that's not what I expected at all from the art. It definitely grabs your attention though.
That's great, and I can't see what you're showing, so if there's anything I need to speak to on that, let me know.
Yeah, so the only page that I pulled up, the only page I pulled up there at the moment, I'm going to show some others, but was the cover page for issue 1, Troublemaker. Okay. So like Tenet standing in front of the big green thing that he fights in it.
Excellent. The demon, the Akar. So
yes.
The Akar, yes.
So Tenet's Tales is actually it's a huge passion project of mine, and it's in a universe that I've been working on for pushing 2 decades, at least 15 years. It was 15 years ago that I published the first Tenet-related thing ever, and I've got several novellas as well that are also in the same universe featuring Tenet. And what I really wanted from the very get-go with the stories about Tenet is I really wanted a very almost Mignola-esque kind of graphic novel. That's kind of what, when I think of Tenet Tales in my brain, that's the way I see it. And one of the things that I love about Mignola's work is that while it's very dark, and he uses shadows and blacks to a masterful level. It can also be very, very colorful and very beautiful. I mean, you look at the Hellboy in Hell series, and you're thinking it's all going to be reds and oranges, and it's not. Some of those, they're beautiful yellow palettes or beautiful purple palettes, but it works, and it works on so many different levels. I really want to evoke that. I don't want to copy that because I want to, do my own thing. I want to pay homage to that because I just think it's so beautiful. So that's really what I was going for with Troublemaker, and I have looked high and low for the right artist partner to be able to do this. I wish I could draw, but I can't, and so I have actually attempted 4 or 5 different times. I've got several scripts that have gone to different artists over the years, and either they just weren't hitting the numbers like I wanted to with Tenet, or have what I've come to lovingly refer to as artist bomb out, so where I just have artists who start off and they're super excited and they just kind of bomb. They just vanish off the map and fall off your radar. But with this artist, I am so very happy. They get Tenet. They understand what I'm trying to do, even though there's a language barrier, and it's just an amazing opportunity to tell some stories that burning holes in my brain, and they got to get out to the world. So
one thing that I went to school for art, so I love art, and I'm super interested in creature design specifically. I find it very fascinating, and so I'm on. I read the first issue and it was awesome, and I went on the website and I looked at there's a section on there called Denizens. It's just a character creation section, and some of these characters look just amazing. Like it's like almost like, I'm a huge anime fan, like Studio Ghibli. Like I like some of their stuff. Some of their stuff is like but what they do, I think, very well is creature creation, like getting like blowing your imagination with what they can put on screen. And this is very Ghibli-esque stuff that I'm seeing. It really looks really cool.
Thank you. And that's a different artist. That's a different artist from the one who I'm working on the comic with. That young lady, her name, she goes by Hark online, and she's done a ton of concept art for me in the past. And I'd love to work with her again one day as she frees up.
That's awesome.
But for me, I'm a very visual writer. I've got to have, I've got ideas in my head, but I've got to really see those in some form, whether it's a sketch or a fully rendered illustration, before I can really get into the story. And so I've got a lot of art that I have commissioned over the past 15 years of different locations and denizens and, people, places and things that that show up in Tenet's Tales, so that I can really write the stories from the pictures. So having that art and kind of taking what's in my brain, decomposing it into something that is physical that I can look at is a critical part of my creative process.
Yeah.
And for this story, or for these stories, with all the crazy creatures, it's really, really helpful.
That's awesome. So like, I didn't want to get too deep into the creative process, but so like the way that you approach Tenet is, so you have ideas obviously of what you want it to look like before you even start writing, and you're presenting that to artists, and then they'll hand those sketches back, and then you kind of run with that.
Yeah, so it obviously depends on the artist. I like to work with the artist inside of kind of their comfort zone and where they like to be. And every artist is a little bit different. But typically what I'll do is I'll write up some level of art direction, whether it's just a couple of sentences, it can be a page of art direction, depending on what that artist needs. And then I give it to them, and typically I don't even kind of say do it in X or Y medium. Do it in the medium you enjoy the most.
Yeah.
Because what I've found over many years of being an art director is that when I give the artist the freedom to express what they see in their brain in the medium and the way that they enjoy the most, then I get much better results. Yeah. And that then feeds my creative process. So
that's awesome.
Absolutely. And yeah, for anyone in the chat as well, I was throwing up some of the creatures from the website. Literally, I just went through the Tenet's like page on the website and just like picked some of the monsters that I liked the look of, some of these creatures that I thought just looked so cool and that really stood out to me. And by all by no means was that all of them. Like I've got like 4, 5, 6, 7 pictures, and like by no means is that all of the stuff that's up there. And it's like, and I got a kind of, like we talked about, like a definite Hellboy vibe from it. Maybe like a, also as well, if you want to rate it this TV show, kind of like a supernatural vibe of, like, especially in the comic, where it's like Tenet comes into a place where these people are dealing with one of these creatures, one of these demons, and it looks like every sort of situation is going to be a different demon presenting different challenges. So yeah, so if you're a fan of stuff like, you know, Hellboy or like Supernatural or things like that, or Witcher, this is very much up that alley. Some of these creatures look amazing. Some of the designs are gorgeous, and I can't wait to see them actually appearing in the comic.
Yeah, and that's nowhere near all the ones that I have. So the 7 you have is nowhere near the ones that I have. But yeah, the basic story is that in the Weird War universe, and the Weird War is kind of an overarching umbrella, where Tenet's Tales is just one small part of the stories that I want to tell. There's several others. But for Tenet's Tales, Tenet is the story of a fallen angel who cannot lie, who is trying to right a wrong that he feels is the worst wrong ever. He decided that he was going to side with Satan. He fell with the other third of the legions of angels that fell. But since he's a being with free will, after the fall, he decided this really isn't all it was cracked up to be. And so he decides to kind of give Satan the finger, right? And say, no, I'm going to do my thing, and I'm going to go help mankind. So now he's hated by hell and he's hunted by heaven, but he's doing everything he can to help mankind, who he feels is worthy of the Creator's love and who's worthy of his help. Yeah. There's a big guilt thing going on for him as well, which will be revealed over the course of the stories. Thank you. And you're right. Each story is standalone. So if you read like the novellas that I've published over on Amazon, each one is standalone. It begins, we have that character progression, and ends and kind of sums up. And it's at different points in times in history. Because Tenet is an angel, right, or a fallen angel, he's immortal. So I can go all the way back to the Garden of Eden, right, and tell stories. And so I actually have 1,600 years of detailed history of Tenet's Tales. And I have stories that span all the way back to the Garden of Eden and, 700 BC, where we see Tenet, and just all these stories all the way up to modern day. And we see things that happen in previous stories affect future stories. So I have to keep track of all that as a writer. So it's a lot of fun.
Awesome. That's really cool. And it's kind of cool that you get like all that history to play with as well. Like you said, like Tenet's a fallen angel, so like he's not going to age, he's not going to die. It's like, so like he's kind of on this journey throughout history, and that's something I'm excited to see that kind of character development and how it's portrayed. Like we talked about it, like in comics, seeing a character develop and go through an arc and grow and how things affect them. Seeing a character that's going through that journey, like over that period of time, is going to be really interesting to kind of look at and see his progression.
And thank you, Cross. And I think you will really enjoy that journey, because while technically Tenet can't die because he is an immortal created creature of God, I really hate that as a creative and as a writer, right? Because we were just talking about earlier how when you take the sting of death away, when you take the sting of death away, you lose a lot of opportunity for heightening the story, as Nitro said earlier. So what I did early on is I had to figure out that problem, right, before I started writing the first word. So technically, yes, Tenet can't die, but what he can do is his physical form can be destroyed. And I wanted to have I wanted death to still have a sting. So what I have is a concept that I think is fairly unique in the world of comics and in the world of storytelling, at least Christian storytelling, where when an immortal creature dies in the Weird War universe, they have to do what's called going before the throne. I base this on Job, where Satan himself goes before the throne of God and has to ask permission to torment Job. So in my mind, when Tenet dies, when his physical form is totally destroyed, he actually has to appear before the throne of God, and he has to account for everything that he has done since the last time he was before the throne. So if it was 100 years, if he's been knocking around Earth for 100 years, he goes before the throne, he's got to make up for the last 100 years. He's got to recount his tale. Here's the problem. Number one, everything he tells, before the throne, he forgets. Okay.
Okay.
And it takes almost as long to tell the tale as it does to live the life. If you imagine if you had to go and tell somebody every moment of your life, it would, for the last 8 hours, it would probably take about, 7 or 8 hours, right? So when you go before the throne, there is a period of time on earth where you're not around. So you may be gone, you may be absent 60 years, and then when you return to earth, you don't remember anything that you did before you went to the throne. So what that leads to is now when our hero returns, he may not remember bargains that he's made. He may not remember enemies that he has made, or deals that he has struck, or promises that he's made, which leads to the phenomenon that we see in history of tomes of knowledge and grimoires and hidden scrolls and all these secret stashes of knowledge. It's actually in my world, it's like, for instance, Tenet is taking notes and he's storing them up so that when he gets back to Earth, if he can remember where those notes are, he can go back and read up and catch up to figure out where he was when he left off. So there's this constant kind of interplay of, kind of putting up stores, in case I have to go before the throne, in case I'm hurt, and doing the job that I have before me. So,
that's a really cool concept. I really like that, and in my head I'm almost thinking like it sounds familiar, but it's like it's different things in my head are like there's stuff that kind of touches on it, but I'm like I can't think of a thing of like where I've actually heard it in that way before. It's very interesting, very unique, and you're right, it changes the stakes. It's a really unique way to change the stakes, because I'll be honest, when you said it at first like that, okay, Tenet can't die, and I was like, okay, so Tenet's going to be, it's going to be a case of like it's going to add to his guilt. Like he's going to be like he can't die, but like we see in the comic he's actually fighting off this demon for a family who's being tormented by it. So if he fails, if they die, that adds to his guilt. And I'm like, no, you've went so deeper than that, and it's like it's just phenomenal idea of like, if he dies, like he can be gone for this length of time and then come back to face enemies, come back to meet people who are calling in like favors, meet all these things of like, and he's got no clue about any of it, and it's like it's this whole new level of stuff, and I'm like, that's a really cool concept. I really like that. It's a really interesting concept.
Thank you. Yeah, it really does. It gives me a lot of new toys to play with as a storyteller. And there are even times where we'll see Tenet and he comes back and he's deceived by an enemy, and he winds up working for the wrong side for a while. He winds up being a bad guy for a while, but not because he wants to be bad, but just because he's caught at the wrong moment and he's fed just the perfect lie to shift his momentum. And so as a storyteller, it gives me a lot of opportunity to do a lot of cool things, but it also is a tremendous burden on me. There's another big personal peeve that I have is consistency in storytelling. I don't want something to happen in issue, say 3, that say this thing, or Tenet does X, Y, or Z that he can't say or do later on. So there's this element of consistency, and so I have to take really good notes.
Absolutely. So I just want to jump over with our chat there. Shout out to Tim the Blue Mage. Thank you so much for that follow. Welcome to the Comic Clan. Thank you for stopping by for our interview with Brannon today. Absolutely appreciate you being here. Hope you enjoy the show. But yeah, like this comic was a really intriguing one to read. Like Tenet's a really intriguing character. He's a really interesting perception, and when I first started reading about it, it was like, I didn't get. It was kind of like I said when we did our interview on Friday. Like I kind of read the comic without knowing the blurb of it or the backstory of it, or it wasn't like I seen the comic and then was like, okay, oh yeah, we need to get this guy in the show. Like I got the comic without any of that. So like I started finding out about Tenet, like the fact that he was a fallen angel from this blurb, and a bit of this story that it's like Hellboy and the Witcher, and this was like the description of it from this blurb. So I started getting all of that after. So I literally went into this blind. Like I had no idea what was coming when you sent me this comic. I just knew it was Tenet's tale, and that was it. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what was going to happen, and yeah, it's a really enjoyable story. Like right off the bat, it was enjoyable to kind of read, and it was like, and I'll be honest, like it feels short. Like issue 1, like reading it, it's like it feels short, like because you're like, you're like, okay, we're getting going. I want to see what happens next. I want to delve into the next part, because like he fights the thing, he goes and talks to the family, and then that's it. It's done. And it's like,
right.
I'm like, okay, I'm ready for issue 2 now. I almost wish it was a trade or a graphic novel. Like I want the next part of the story. You know, it's like, but that's an amazing thing.
I do too.
You know what?
Yeah.
One thing that I thought was really cool, and I know we were talking about it a little bit before the stream, Brandon, was so I've always been like fascinated by spiritual war, and like I've done a lot of research in it and stuff like that. You know, principalities and powers and things like that. And obviously, there's principalities and powers and dominions on one side. The same is true on the other side. But one thing that I thought was really cool that you had called out is, you know, again, you were talking about this a little bit before, but angels have free will, right? Or else they wouldn't have been able to decide to turn their backs on God. So in that same vein, the angels who decided to follow Lucifer at one point in time can choose not to, you know, and they can kind of make up their own mind and do. So there's like factions within factions. I thought it was a really cool concept that I've never heard really done or touched on before.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I'm actually not the first to do it. C.S. Lewis did it, but I think it's on very, very firm logical grounds. But to me, I struggle with wanting to be able to tell certain stories, but I don't want to ever contradict Scripture. And so, to me, I felt like this was kind of a weasel kind of way of getting around that, you know, and kind of playing in the gray space between the lines. But to me, yeah, I mean, it's logical that when you have a creature who has free will and they make a bad decision, it doesn't mean they have to keep deciding to do those bad things, which leads then to fallen angels who decide to still follow Lucifer, right, and still do bad things and try and hurt people. But also guys like Tenet who decide, no, I'm going to side with the light, and even though the light hates me, I'm still going to try and, you know, do what God says is correct. And then you also have neutrals, right, who were like, we don't want a part of the weird war. We have nothing to do with this fight of good versus evil. So I'm going to have Bigfoot, you know, as a fallen who's decided, you know what, I'm siding with nature.
I'm just walking around in the woods trying to mind my own business.
Exactly. And so Bigfoot will show up in a Tenet's tale at some point, Lord willing. You know, so to go back to Cross's point, I appreciate it. And I think that's really maybe a testament to my writing, but a testament how poor marketer I am. So I need to get the word out better. But I would also love to see it as a graphic novel. But for me, I'm funding all this right now out of my back pocket. So, art is expensive, and that kind of goes back to my plug for you guys at the beginning of the show, and that it's really critical that people who enjoy these stories, that they support those creators, and that they vote with their dollar. Because, I mean, you know, if I had, you know, people buying, you know, if I had thousands of sales on this thing, then I would. You better believe I'm working on the sequel in the next chapter of the story. I am actually working on a short 6-page, actually a little 6-page comic that is kind of an overarching, kind of a unique little comic. I challenged myself to write a comic with 4 words. And so I've written a 6-page comic with only using 4 words in a very unique way. But it tells you something about Tenet pretty much from the moment of the fall to the current day.
Oh wow!
And Lord willing, it'll be pretty impactful, because everybody that reads it just kind of goes whoa. So hopefully there will be something visually that will be stunning as well. So that's the next thing that'll be coming out for Tenet. Although I am considering maybe doing a Indiegogo or Kickstarter or something like that.
Yeah. Well, if you decide to do that, just let us know. We would happily love to help you plug that and get that out there. Definitely.
I mean, as guys who are in the know, I would love to know if you guys thought if Kickstarter, you know, for something like Tenet's Tales would have legs. Do you think it would? Do you think it would go?
Very possibly.
I have like supported like Kickstarter comics before, or Indiegogo comics before, rather.
Do we have to talk about that? Really?
I mean, we won't mention the actual comic, but it is successful because they lured us in. But yes, if it's, I think what you have is good.
Yeah, I think like Indiegogo is a place where a lot of stuff can happen. I think Tenet's Tales got enough of a leg on it. If you can get enough of the information out there to grab people, and we'll definitely help push it. Like it's definitely a possibility.
Cool. Yeah.
You know, it's like it's definitely something that could work. So to kind of move into some of the other stuff, I did want to kind of touch on another one of the topics out there, because like one of the other things we were going to mention was the story of Divine 9, and I kind of want to bring this one up next specifically, because like some of the images on the website, do I see Tenet in the background? of some of the Divine Nine stuff.
Oh, I just noticed that.
You do.
It's like because I saw Divine Nine and I pulled some of the pictures off the website and then I went, wait a minute, that's Tenet standing in the back. I'm like, wait a minute, I like interconnected universe that I wasn't expecting there. Divine Nine and Tenet crossover. So I'm going to.
And if you actually scroll down, if you scroll down to the bottom, there's pictures of some of the bad guys and stuff in the Divine Nine universe, and Tenet's down there as well. He's hiding down there. But yeah, you're exactly right, Cross. So the Divine Nine is also set in my Weird War universe. And again, Divine Nine, the original conception of that was a little bit different than the show. I originally conceived of that probably about 12 or 13 years ago. And it was somewhat the same, slightly different, but I've transformed it to hopefully be an animated show that kind of is a Ben 10 meets Avatar: The Last Airbender. When you're working on an idea for a show or a comic, you have to always consider who's this show for, right? Who's the market?
Absolutely.
Originally, everything I was writing was kind of for the older teen, the young married guy, kind of my age. That's who I was writing for. But Divine Nine is going to be for like 9 to 13-year-olds. So I kind of shifted the story a little bit, and it is a story of a couple of fraternal twins, Demi and Davy Bello, who uncover these strange seals, these old like artifacts, and they contain these bound spirits that wind up being something called the Divine Nine. And they're journeying around the globe, uncovering secrets about these mysterious seals, while also trying to find their parents, who vanish under some suspect circumstances in the first episode. So that's a show that I'm writing currently. I've gotten the first 10 episodes outlined, and I'm working on scripts, and we got the pitch done. And hopefully soon we can find some production dollars and go make that. That'll be a 2D animated series, Lord willing. So
awesome. I just want to shout out again to Not That Adam, who's been an absolute beast in the chat here. First of all, thank you so much for that gifted sub. He has gifted a sub to Mingo Boys. Thank you so much for that, making them part of the Stan Clan, and also saying, if you can say there's me and C.S. Lewis, that's not only good company but setting a standard for storytelling.
Yeah, for real.
Which absolutely, absolutely so. But for Divine Nine, it's a really intriguing thing. I can definitely see like the Ben 10 thing with the creatures and stuff like that. Just even you saying that, like the fraternal twins and stuff, and like all these different creatures and things, like, and then even like the design, like if I throw up the picture again, like it's the main picture for Divine Nine, like with the circle with the symbols on it. I'm not gonna lie, like with all of that stuff combined, the thing that stands out in my head, and I'm kind of obsessed with the show, so it might be why it stands out to me, but I'm 100% thinking Gravity Falls. I'm literally thinking like the fraternal twins, the creatures, the different things that aren't quite of this world, like even like Bill Cipher's circle from that, like it's very much got elements of that. I'm like, that sounds a little Gravity Falls, and that's meant in the best compliment in the world. I'm obsessed with that show. I absolutely love it.
I appreciate it. I couldn't speak to that. I've never seen Gravity Falls. I don't do a lot of TV watching. Again, as Cross said earlier, if you follow our Twitter, follow our social media, you see I'm constantly posting stuff, and I'm out there writing scripts. So I just don't do a lot of TV watching. I might do an hour a day, if that, with my wife, and typically we don't watch Gravity Falls. I don't think I've ever seen it. So it may be similar. I couldn't draw any inspiration from it because I've never laid eyes on it. But I thank you for that comparison. So.
No, definitely meant as a compliment, and just that's just from my looking at it. Just for anyone in the chat, if you are fans of that, like it definitely has that feel to it. It looks like a really interesting show. Like just in terms of the idea of it, I think it could be quite interesting. Like even again the creature design, like in the second picture I pulled up there, we get a better look at some of the creatures and stuff, and like you can very much tell that it's similar creature design to like we see for Tenet's Tale. That there's definitely this amazing creature design element that's going through the different works. And you said you've got about 10 episodes lined out so far, like.
Yes, the first season. I've got the first season outlined for Divine Nine, and we meet essentially one of the new 9 in each episode, and so we kind of have a summary at the end that kind of wraps everything up. So we got 9 or 10 episodes of that currently outlined. I'm writing scripts for that as well. So
awesome.
Sorry, I was plugging up my charger. But the
No
creature
problem.
design should look kind of familiar because again, it's in the same universe. And the little kind of spoiler there, several of those monster designs are actually kind of repurposed designs that I took from a role-playing game that I designed back in the day, about 10 years ago.
Oh,
So
nice.
they were part of a card-based role-playing game that I co-developed and had a company that was selling. And I love those designs so much. I'm like, those need to be in Divine Nine. So I took those designs, which I own, and dropped them into Divine Nine. So
That's awesome. That's a good. Hey, not a bad place to pull them from. That's really awesome. So just as I kind of said, like in the background of that first image, you can definitely see Tenet part of there. Do we see any sort of crossover between Tenet and Divine Nine, and what does that crossover look like? Is it just kind of hints that it's the same world, or are we going to see interactions between them, or?
No, yeah, you'll actually absolutely see interactions between Tenet and between Demi and Davy. So Tenet's this kind of in Divine Nine, he's kind of a shadowy kind of figure who's playing around the scenes, or on the edges of the scenes initially, and for the first several episodes, you don't even know if he's a good guy or a bad guy, and that's done on purpose. But eventually he becomes an ally of our main characters, who's not in every episode, but he shows up when he's needed, which is kind of Tenet's shtick.
Yeah.
He kind of shows up where he feels like he needs to be, and does whatever he needs to do to help out, whether that be fighting or providing information or truth, or helping out at a moment's notice or things of that nature. But he's in at least the first 2 episodes that I've already written. In some manner, we see him a little bit. So
Awesome. That's really cool. Like, I love the fact that you've already kind of, like you said, you've got this like interconnected universe, but we're already seeing that in properties and crossovers like that.
Right.
Like, it's really
Absolutely.
interesting.
Yeah, he won't be in everything that's Weird War related, but he'll be in almost everything that I've done. So, and a lot of the stuff that I've written over and published over on Amazon as well is also in the Weird War universe, although the casual reader might not know it. But just about everything I've ever written exists, in my mind at least, at some point in that universe. And so it'll be easy to draw connections when the time comes.
Because it sounds very like Stephen King interconnected sort of universe there. Like, not everything you're fully aware is interconnected, but technically it's interconnected if you look deep enough. Sort of feeling to it.
Absolutely. And that was one of the things that, for me as a viewer and a consumer of entertainment, those are the things that I love the most, right? I love those little Easter eggs that we see in the Marvel movies, or those little call outs to other moments or other places or other times in the whole connected universe. So you better believe I'm building all that stuff in. There's actually, I won't say it's actually connected, the Weird War universe, but there's actually a Tenet cameo in the Cubekins show, believe it or not.
Oh, nice.
In Cubekins? Well,
That's awesome.
wow, Cubekins is about to get really dark. Like,
it's not what you would expect.
I was going to say, it's like I've watched some of this stuff from Cubekins, like I've watched on YouTube and stuff, and I'm like, that doesn't seem like the show where I'd expect Tenet to show up. I must be honest with you, it doesn't feel like we're like that's a.
He doesn't show up in a typical manner, so I'll just say that.
I'm going to say, yeah, that's about to get very different. I did want to ask about Divine Nine. So like we already kind of talked about in Tenet's Tale, you've got all these amazing, like, wonderful creatures. Like, that's kind of part of the shtick for Tenet, is he's hunting these creatures, these demons, he's fending them off, protecting humanity.
Sometimes working with. Sometimes he doesn't fight them. Sometimes he actually has to work with them and kind of utilize their talents, even though they're fallen, in order to get what he needs. So it's not always combat. So.
How are we going to see a difference then between like those sorts of creatures compared to something like Divine Nine, where it's like we've got these Divine Nine creatures? Like, how are they going to be portrayed differently, and are we going to see any sort of juxtaposition of them, of like, this is these creatures here, and then this is like the Nine over here, and like, are they going to, I don't want to say almost like clash with each other, but you know.
So yeah, I mean, obviously visually there'll be, differences, because the Divine Nine show is for a younger age bracket than, say, a Tenet's Tales. So visually they'll be depicted, but there's absolutely, a 1-to-1 correlation. So one of the creatures, that shows up in Divine Nine could absolutely, show up in a Tenet's Tale, but it would look, a little bit more scary, maybe a little bit more gruesome just because of the depiction of that creature. But it's the same universe, so the same creatures exist in both. However, in Divine Nine, the emphasis isn't so much on monster hunting and fighting monsters. Emphasis is more on kind of sleuthing and discovering new secrets and new knowledge and uncovering information about ourselves and overcoming challenges that are presented by some of these kind of fiendish creatures.
Yeah.
So they're that is kind of where we get into more some of the organizations that Nitro was referring to. So for instance, in the third episode of Divine Nine, we're in Cairo in Egypt, and the Demi and Davy are going to run into an organization, actually a couple of organizations that are prevalent in the Weird War universe. One is called the Brotherhood of Belial, which Belial is from the Bible. It means falsehood. And then the other is the Soterian Sisterhood. And so the Brotherhood of Belial is actually a group of kind of fanatics, almost pseudo-religious fanatics who are in the know about the supernatural. So they understand that there are these creatures that are out there, and they actually try and assume abilities of those supernatural creatures in order to become more powerful.
Oh, wow.
So early on, it was things like interbreeding, right, with the Nephilim, right? Mm-hmm. So it would have been things of that nature. But now it's even gotten to, since we're in the 20th century or 21st century in Divine Nine, the Brotherhood of Belial even goes and captures supernatural creatures and does genetic manipulation on them and gene splicing with themselves in order to then manifest, these new powers, these new abilities, so that they can be more powerful. And so they're after the Nine. They're trying to capture the seals because that's like a contained entity that they can experiment on. So they're chasing the Bello siblings, trying to get the seals from them. And there's a kind of a counter organization called the Soterian Sisterhood that is based out of the Greek goddess Sotera. And they believe that any kind of supernatural, any kind of item or weapon that has supernatural power is too powerful for mankind to have access to. So they're all about gathering up these things and hiding them away under lock and key, keeping them out of the wrong hands. Sotera is a goddess in Greek mythology who is over hidden knowledge. That's kind of her domain. And so you have these kind of two organizations that both want the seals from the kids, but they want them for different reasons. And so that's more of the kind of stuff that we'll see most of the time in Divine Nine, but there will occasionally be kind of a kind of cameo of a really big bad guy, maybe some sort of demonic creature or, thing that's kind of pulling the strings, behind the scenes.
Okay, yeah, I don't care if the show's meant to be pitched to like 9 to 13-year-olds. I'm all in for this. I want to see this show. This sounds amazing. This sounds amazing. I want to watch this.
Me too. So anybody with money out there, give me a call so we can make the show. So
if I had money, I would. Unfortunately, I don't. But that honestly sounds amazing. That honestly sounds like such a phenomenal show. Really cool. I'm all for that. That sounds like a phenomenal show. I think that could the potential be something really great. Honestly.
Again, I want to write it so that the show works on several different levels. Right? There's got to be level of drama, and there's got to be a level of of threat that gets the kind of 9-year-olds, but there also needs to be these subtle kind of implied threats that are going to work mentally on your 13-year-olds and older. So while the kids might be like, ooh, that's a scary looking ninja with a tentacle coming out of his arm, kind of behind the scenes from the dialogue, from the exposition, again, good screenwriting, about what the bigger threat is if these guys get a hold of these seals. So
absolutely. Absolutely. I just want to shout out to the chat again quickly. Again, thank you to Not That Adam with another gifted sub to DGAR89. Thank you so much for bringing them to be part of the Stan clan. He also said that he's making sure his wife checks this podcast out later. Says she's a Christian creative, and I think she'd find multifacets of the interview encouraging. So I'm so glad that she'll find it encouraging stuff and find encouragement from what Brannon's talking about. That's awesome. And then also, thank you for Rusted Crown for the follow. Welcome to the Comic Clan. We're so glad you could come in and join us. Hope you're enjoying the show. Yeah, so much stuff's going on in this chat when we're talking. That's why we should have cried.
I'm trying to keep it up.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Nitro's like answering back as much as you can in the chat there, so appreciate that, brother. But yeah, Divine Nine sounds like an absolutely phenomenal show. I want to keep delving into it, but I'm very aware of our time, so I do want to kind of push forward a little bit into at least the other big main ones that we were talking about, or that we wanted to cover was Fourth World 4. Which is another one that's got a comic coming out and also has a 3D animated show that's getting worked on. So I wanted to delve into that. Can you tell us a little bit about Fourth World 4 and what we can expect from that one?
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to comment just a little bit about the comic that we've got coming out for Divine Nine. We talked about the show a lot.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You did say there was a comic for that one. Apologies. Yeah,
no issues. We're working with a wonderful organization, a team of brilliant Christian creatives out of El Salvador called Mercy Ways.
Oh, nice.
And we're collaborating
I know
Divine
Mercy
Nine
Ways.
comic.
Yeah, they've reached out to us a few
Absolutely,
times and stuff. That's awesome.
And stay tuned. There's more things coming between Brainy Pixel and Mercy Ways, but I'll just kind of tease that out there. I can't say more about that right now. But we're collaborating on a Divine Nine comic that actually goes back in time. So the Divine Nine show will take place kind of modern day, the 21st century. These seals have existed ever since Solomon's time, so the Old Testament. And so we wanted to do a comic, but we wanted to do a comic that told a little bit more about these seals and gave us some more insight into their backstory. And so I've written an outline, working on the script currently, where we go back to the fall of Jerusalem in 97 AD, where Rome came in, and there were also several other things. It was Rome and several other factions of the interwarring Jewish populace, and Rome when they came in, and Jerusalem fell, and the seals are in Jerusalem at this time. They're held there in the temple, and so the high priest is like, we've got to get this and the other icons of Jewish worship, such as the menorah and all the other things, that the ark and things like that. And he's like, we got to get these out of here. And so it's the story of how those seals are taken from Jerusalem and they get scattered all across the globe, where eventually where they wind up, where we then have to go and find them in Divine Nine. So we kind of tell the backstory of how those seals got there, and it's a fun adventure. And each story will kind of harken back to the Divine Nine show. So
that's awesome. That's a really cool concept for it, though, because it'd be so easy to just kind of stick to the modern day, and it'd be so easy to kind of do that same story in the comics, but to take that time to delve into the history of it and to delve into like this bigger world of this aspect of it, like that's a really great concept for it. And I think it's a really good idea for like world building, and just to dive that little bit further,
Yeah, and that's what we're all about at Brainy Pixels. We want to show the world, first of all, that Christian creatives can make amazing content, right? We can bring story, we can bring the visuals if you just give us a shot, right? And
Amen.
We know that a lot of people have gotten shots in the past, and they've not done the best job. We look at everything we create as an offering to our King, and so we're bringing the absolute best we can bring in terms of storytelling, in terms of visual presentation, whether it's in the paper form, digital form, or it's a film or a movie. So
it's funny you talk about that, because like I feel like we've had similar conversations on the stream with other people that we've interviewed. Dr. Baron Bell, for one, who's a professor at Liberty University, teaches comic book creation.
I'm good friends with Baron, actually.
Yeah, he's awesome dude. And we've had this conversation where when I was younger and I was just getting into the faith, I would go into the bookstore, and like I loved comics. Obviously, I loved art, and I loved all things geek culture. And I saw that they had a comic book section in the bookstore, in the Bible bookstore. I was like, holy crap! I didn't know that this existed. And then I actually picked them up, and I was like, got it. So I'll put it right back on.
Yeah, it's like,
to your point though, like there are like crazy talented people who just happen to be Christians, and just being able to see them put that talent to use to tell very interesting stories. That's why, like, some of the stuff you're talking about, like I've read the stuff that we had for the interview and stuff like that, but having you put context on it and filling in those details, it makes me super excited for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad. And again, that's what we're passionate about doing here. And we're going to do it to the best of our ability as long as we can, as long as the Lord wills it. So, but back to Fourth World 4. So Fourth World 4 is a sci-fi action 3D show that we're working on. We kind of pitch it as the Fantastic Four meets Star Trek. The basic story is it's far-flung Earth future where we've actually terraformed Mars into 4 different regions: Arctic, arid, temperate, and tropic. And we got these 4 scientists who are actually kind of orbiting in a spaceship. They're orbiting Mars, running some tests, trying to figure out a problem, and they get struck with some sort of cosmic event that flings them to the far side of the galaxy and transforms their bodies. Very similar story, right? This is a faith broad show. So what we're doing is because when you start talking about aliens in conjunction with the Bible, you very quickly run into a very prickly eschatological problem, right? And that is, Jesus didn't come and die for aliens. He came and died for people. Mm-hmm. And so as soon as you introduce aliens, you kind of have to deal with that question if you're couching it in a world where there is a Jesus and where there's, a God. So what we've decided to do is that we don't talk about Jesus in this show. We don't talk about the Bible, but what we do is we base every show that we're writing on Scripture. And we kind of build on that message, and we build layers so that it is palatable to someone who might not understand Scripture, but they absolutely are going to be engaged and involved and excited about the story. And then we can use that story as a platform then to talk about things of Scripture. So we can have follow-on products, we can have Bible studies, which I'm already writing, that connect different parts of the show, different moments in the show, different dialogue in the show, directly to Scripture. So we're kind of reverse engineering Scripture into the show, if you would. We do refer to something called the Supreme, but that's the way we couch it. We don't explain it. We just, some of the characters will refer to, thank the Supreme that those aliens didn't bite my leg off or whatever. But that's the only way that we have any sort of spiritual kind of context in the show itself. The reason we did that was, 1, to avoid the eschatological issue, and 2, we understand as a studio that we've got to be able to pitch things, right? And oftentimes you'll go into a pitch meeting and you may pitch, say, a Cubekins, which maybe is your, flagship product, and they may say, well, we're not really interested in that. What else do you got? And they may even say, we're not interested in anything with Jesus in it. What else you got? And we want to have something that is moral and ethical and is biblically based and is very, very strong in terms of the ethos that we believe as Christians, but that may still appeal to a broader audience. And so that's kind of what Fourth World 4 is all about.
Absolutely, and I think that's honestly a really smart thing to do, to not have a not to say like a full-blown Christian idea out there like that, because you want to make it appealing to other people, like kind of like what Nitro mentioned, like, going to the, the Christian bookstores, or going to the, and seeing like the comic books there, and like either you got these really like crappy superhero comics, or you got basically graphic novel Bible.
Yeah, pretty much.
And that was it, and I'm like, you're not going to draw people in with that stuff all the time, because you need to be appealing to others as well. I mean, that's kind of like what we do in this show. Like, we don't shy away from the fact that we're Christian. We've been completely open about that. Comics and the Cross, it pretty much says it in the title. Yeah. We are Christians. We offer, like, in our chat, we've got a pop-up that says, like, if you guys want to talk about stuff, if you've got prayers, or Discord has got prayer request sections. If you've got questions, you can pop them into the questions about God section, and we're quite happy to talk about that. But we don't host, like, a Bible study on the show. We don't do, like, a Monday night Bible study where I sit here and go through that, because we want to create an environment that creates an atmosphere of the love of God and brings people in and shows people, like, this is, like, we're Christians, but we're normal people too. Like, we love comic books, we love geek culture, we can talk about that stuff.
Weirdos.
It's like,
exactly.
At least we don't think we are.
No, we're definitely weirdos. We're just the right kind of weirdos. We're redeemed weirdos, right? But that's exactly right, Cross, is that we've got, as Christians, we got to change the perception, right? And that while Christ permeates our life, it doesn't mean that we can't enjoy a comic book, right? We definitely have to decide what things we're going to glorify and what things we're going to, support with our dollars, with our time, with our efforts. But it doesn't mean we can't read a Marvel comic, right? Or it doesn't mean we, can't, eat strawberries, right? I mean, there's lots of things that Christians can do that aren't bad, right?
Yeah.
And so that's critical as Christians, that we have to, like you said, we have to show the love of God. Mm-hmm. We have to be in the world, but not of the world. But it doesn't mean that we can't have passions and we can't enjoy good stories. I mean, the Bible it's the best story ever written, about the greatest event ever written. And so there's no excuse for Christians to be poor on storytelling.
Oh, hold on. There we go. A good input there from Not That Adam, actually. He says, I teach intro to theology. I had to give a student permission to watch Marvel because they thought it was a form of idolatry.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's like...
Well, and it can be, right? If everything you do is Marvel and you don't read your Bible and you wake up every morning and turn on Disney and you only watch Marvel and you ignore your kids and because it's the new Marvel's coming out, then that is idolatry. Right?
Yeah.
Anything we put before God, but that could be, like I said, for me, it's video games. Right? I have a huge problem with video games. Can't play video games. Super addictive. They're like my crack cocaine. And I almost flunked out of college because of video games. And if I allowed myself to partake of even a commercial or video game, it's that bad. I can't even watch a video game commercial.
Wow.
Then it would become an idol in my life. I would do only video games. I would not go to work. I would ignore my wife. I would ignore my children. Video games would become an idol for me. So I've had to say no video games in my life at all, ever, because I can't accept an idol in my life that comes before my God.
Yeah.
And it can be anything. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you need to make that decision. You need to make sure that you're not putting something before Christ. Like, Christ first, and then I love comic books, I love Marvel, I love video games, I love all those sorts of things, but Christ is in my life. I've got a wife, I've got kids, I've got all these things that require my attention. I've got a job I need to work. I've got, even doing a show, this is now a job, and on the side as well, But you can't delve into that stuff if it becomes an idol, and it's like Marvel within itself is not an evil thing, but it can be if you have that alone at yourself. But I understand what you're saying as well, though. Like, there's some people who would be like that. Superheroes are getting glorified. They're doing all this stuff. No, you can't touch it. And it's like you need to make the decision for yourself what you're comfortable with. Kind of like the world of Harry Potter. Like, you have to make a decision for yourself in that, It's like you have to make a decision. There's some Christians that are wholeheartedly, I will not watch it, I will not read it, I will not do it because it's wizards and witchcraft. But you have to make the decision what's okay for you, what you feel like is too much and too far over the line. And, for some people, there is things. Like you said, you can't even really watch a commercial for a video game. It's like, it's going to be too much, and so I'm not going to ask you to tune in when we play games on the stream. It's like it's not something we're going to do. It's like,
you can ask, I just won't join.
Yeah, but it's like you need to make the decision for yourself in some of those things, definitely. And
absolutely, I mean, there are things that are clearly called out in Scripture that we shouldn't do, right? So I shouldn't murder people, right? No problem. But there are other things that we have to discern, right? The Holy Spirit gives us a spirit of discernment, and so we have to be able to discern. Okay, I know that is territory I shouldn't venture into, or else I will fall, right? And we have to police ourselves, but also be in a body of believers that we can be held accountable. And like you guys, we're all now part of the same body. So if you see me online streaming, and I'm on my Discord, I'm playing a video game, you better email me and say, get off. So that's a problem for Brannon. So
no, absolutely. And so just looking at our time, just to kind of pull it back to Fourth World 4. So this is going to be a new 3D animation one that you're looking at. You're delving into the world of sci-fi, the world of aliens, the world of space. it's not going to necessarily have like mention of God and Jesus and that aspect of Christianity, but we're going to be delving into lessons from the Bible, though. We're going to delve into that side of things.
We're dealing with concepts that resonate with Scripture and that are based upon and built out of Scripture. So the place we start with every single episode that we've written, and we've written 9 of these so far, and these are like 30-minute scripts, so this is a fair amount of work. Every single one of them is tied back to Scripture, and we've also got a comic in work as well. It's going to be a 12-page comic that kind of is a little vignette. All these are going to be episodic, so they don't necessarily connect. You could watch them in any order or read them in any order. And so we've got a comic as well coming out that's being drawn by an amazing guy from Russia that I just can't wait until it comes out and we're able to show you guys.
Yeah, I'm showing some of the images from the comic that you had sent me, and
Awesome.
just on stream now, and just like, yeah, the art is beautiful. It's like the art is phenomenal for this. You know what I mean? It's like, and there's definitely good points to Tenet's art, but like this art just really like, wow, this is really well.
It's a totally different style, and so I wanted to go with a different artist. You know, it needs to have its own look.
Yeah,
its own look and feel.
And I mean, you can get it just even looking at it. It's like where Tenet's got that kind of gritty look to it. Like you can look at Fourth World 4, and it's like it's absolutely got that big feeling to it, that boom impact of something big that you would expect from like a big sci-fi thing.
Excellent.
So as we're over the 2 hour mark at this point. I wanted to delve lastly into, we had some stuff that you sent us about an upcoming project, some images that are not really being released as of yet, but you were kind enough to send me some to be able to share with our community. If you can share a little bit about this upcoming project and how much you can share about it. I don't know how deep you can even delve into it at this point.
Absolutely. So we've released the logo for this. It's a little show or a little series called Heaven's Hammers, and this was actually a direct response to some folks that were interested in Tenet's Tales, but they thought it was a little too dark and too gritty. Which is the problem with a story like that is, for Christians it can be okay, that's too dark, it's too gritty, but I want something more more Christian, but not like the world. So I created this little comic idea, or this little pitch called Heaven's Hammers, which in my mind is essentially it's like a DC Trinity or Avengers Prime, but it's Christian. And so the basic story is that we've got a group of 3 angels, and their mission is really simple: go kick in the teeth of the bad guys, right? So go help humans and go kick in the teeth of the demons. Take the fight to them. They are literally the hammers of heaven. And so I'm really excited about this. I'm also working on this project with Mercy Ways out of El Salvador. Ivan is doing some amazing work for me, and these are just like preliminary, just him getting in the zone sketches.
Yeah, we've shown some of Ivan's work on the show before. He was the guy in Nitro that we showed some of like the David and Goliath comic he sent us some previews for. And like his artwork is beautiful. He's a phenomenal artist.
Yep, I cannot wait to see this stuff. And I've written a little 4-page comic on this that we're doing just as kind of a sample, a teaser, something we can put out again. So maybe we can Kickstarter or Indiegogo and get some funds to make it a reality. And we're thinking about if this thing gets legs, then we may turn it into a show as well. So we've always got that option, being an animation and production studio. So.
Dude, this art is fantastic. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just had
no, that's fine. I think I sent over some of Ivan's recent stuff that actually just came in last night, hot off the presses, and then I've got a couple of character pieces in there as well. I believe, didn't I send you 2, Cross?
Yeah. So like the one I've got up in stream right now, first of all, is one of the first character pieces of the angel in the gold armor with the big wings spread. And then the second character piece we've got here, the one that I described as the more biblical description of an angel, this weird looking creature with eyes all over it and not quite humanoid.
So yeah, that first character, the guy with gold armor, or the angel with gold armor, is Halem, and he's the leader of our kind of our triune angel team. And he's kind of the Superman meets Thor kind of analog, for this particular series. I've got another couple of characters. One is called Ear, and she is kind of like the Wonder Woman, Batman analog. And then I've got another called Lagon, who is kind of our heavy. So that's kind of like our, our Iron Man, or I guess Iron Man and Batman, and then our Wonder Woman and Cap kind of analog. And he's kind of our tank. And then the purple guy is Raz, and he is a keeper of secrets. And then there's another main character called Avigdor, who is kind of like the Three's elder. He's kind of like their trainer. He's really cool as well. I'll maybe show him on a future podcast. But I really wanted to have a visual difference between what I, in my mind, see as New Testament angels versus Old Testament angels, right? I think, again, this is just Brannon, right? Just reading scripture and looking at God's world, but God has so much variation in his creation. We look across creation, and if you look at, say an insect compared to a leopard, right? Those two things look drastically different, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the same sort of variation is going to exist in the heavenly host. I see no reason why it wouldn't. And so you're going to see that variation amongst different types of angels, and by relation, different types of fallen, which are corrupted forms of the angels, in everything that I'm working on, because I'm really passionate about that. That's one of my big design and story elements that I like to hit. And this actual story, as you might expect, is also in the same universe with Tenet's Tale. So this is also part of the Weird War. So, some weird-looking guy with a weird beard may show up in Heaven's Hammer from time to time.
Nice.
You never know.
That'd be interesting to see Tenet cross over with that. That really would. But some of this art is just beautiful. Like, I was just looking there at one of the ones I put up, and it's literally just the picture of the hammer.
Yeah.
And even the design of the hammer, like, I love that it's big like Mjolnir from Thor. It looks very much like that sort of hammer, but I love that even the handle is like the cross shape, like the old school broadswords, because that's what, like knights used to kneel down and pray to that, because it looked like a cross. And
absolutely,
it's like, I love the fact that that's been incorporated into like the angel's hammer. Like, it's such a cool design for it.
And I love that the HH with the cross in the middle on the actual hammer, that little seal there. That is so sweet to me. That's all Ivan right there. I sent him the Halem, and he kind of redesigned the hammer, and I was like, oh, that's it from now on.
Yeah, like,
I'm even gonna redo the logo and incorporate those elements in the logo, because they're just so cool.
Yeah, like, massive shout out to Ivan and to Mercy Way Studios. Like, some of the work they're doing is phenomenal. His artwork is just it's next level. He's a phenomenal artist. He really is.
And kind of a neat story. We found out that I used to do a lot of work in the gaming industry, and I was doing a lot of freelancing for Paizo at the same time he was doing art for Paizo. So
oh wow!
We didn't know each other then, but God brought us together later to do stuff for His glory. So,
that is absolutely awesome. It's like
very cool.
Yeah, like, it's just so amazing the amount of stuff that's going on with Brainy Pixel. You guys have got your hands in everything. Like, there's so much stuff going on, and it's all phenomenal. Like, hearing the background of all of it just gets me hyped for a lot of it, even more so, and it's crazy. Awesome. Like all this stuff is just great, and like, I'm excited to see it starting to gain momentum now and starting to kind of build up speed as stuff starts to come out.
Thank you.
But yeah, thank you so much for coming on, Brannon. Thank you
for the next couple of months.
Yeah, thank you for coming on just to share all of this stuff and just to tell us about all these different things and just to delve into this. It's been amazing. It's been awesome to just kind of go into all of this.
Yeah, my pleasure, guys, and I'm more than happy to come on anytime you want. And lots of stuff going on. You're going to see lots of stuff coming out in the next couple of months. February and March are going to be huge for us. Some really big announcements coming, and Lord willing, we may. I'll leave. Just Lord willing, we're going to do His will.
Just leave it there. Leave it on a good cliffhanger for them. If you want to get more on Brainy Pixel and their stuff, I'm going to start throwing some stuff into the chat. And that is the website where you can go and check out brainypixel.com and check out all the stuff Brainy Pixel's doing. We haven't covered everything here. We are at least not in great depth. Like, there's so much. Like, we're already well over 2 hours at this point, and we barely touched on some of that stuff. Also as well, right there you'll find gumroad.com/brainypixel, where you can pick up Tenet's Tale Troublemaker for yourself. If you're interested at all in that, go and check it out. Like I said, it's a small donation. You can do as low as $1 if you want. If you're really unsure, definitely go check it out and see what you think. If you want to donate more, if you think this is something I want to get behind, then go ahead and do a bigger donation for Brannon and Brainy Pixel and get it out there. And let's start to get some momentum behind Tenet's Tale. Also, I'm going to put in Brainy's social. Go ahead and follow them on social media if I can spell. That's what happens when I talk, and I have to go quiet to type it in because I always misspell stuff.
I can't type and talk at the same time. It's just...
So, Brainy Pixel is on pretty much every social network that I could think of. Like, the social networks that you sent me that you're on, like, I've never even heard of some of them. Like, Gab. What's Gab? What's Mind? I don't even know what these are. It's like... But Brainy Pixel is on there. If you're on some sort of social media, Brainy Pixel's there. Go and give them a follow. Go give them a like. Go give them a subscription.
Man.
Go and drop that in there. And of course, I wanted to throw this in because if you've been following them on social media even, there's been so much momentum behind Cubekins. So I threw in all the links for the Cubekins stuff. If you're a parent, if you've got kids, younger kids who are wanting to check out some stuff with good morals, good teachings behind them, all this, then definitely go ahead and check out Cubekins. You can check it out for yourself on their YouTube, follow it on social media if you want, to get a feel of it at first, and then of course you can go ahead and purchase it as well, or rent it, buy it, whatever, on Amazon, on Vimeo, and on Christian Cinema.
Absolutely, and more coming soon. So feel free to hit me up on Twitter. I'm usually on Twitter a fair amount, or Facebook, and happy to chat with anybody if you got any questions, and just happy to bless whoever we can.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. And if you want to keep the conversation going with us about Brainy Pixel or about anything else, and the stuff we've got going on the show, including our 12-hour stream that's coming up, go ahead and hit us up on social media and Discord. Give us a follow, give us likes. And if you want to watch this again, if you missed any of this show, this week it will be going up on our YouTube channel as well, so you can catch it there. All right.
Excellent.
Awesome.
I think we've hit everything. Just what's coming up for us this week is tomorrow night I'll be back on stream at 10:30 Eastern Time with Monday Night Crossplay. We'll be continuing our journey through Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Thank you for everyone that's been coming and hanging out with me as I've been doing that. I hopefully this time won't die for about half an hour to an icy hill. Which, if you were here last Monday night, that's what kept happening. I kept going down an icy hill and kept misjudging the jump, and I was at it for about 20-30 minutes. So yeah, I'm playing as a Jedi and the icy hill got me, like, really. But thank you so much to everyone who's been hanging out for that. Come ahead and check that out. And then of course next week we are back 2 o'clock Eastern next Sunday, and Nitro and myself are going to be doing a little kind of midway stop off for WandaVision. WandaVision's been getting released on Disney Plus. Up to episode 3 is out at the moment if you want to go check it out. 4 will be dropping on Friday, so next Sunday we're going to be delving into the first half of that season, and it has been littered with references, with strange goings on, with Easter eggs, with future stuff for the MCU, and we're going to be delving into all of that and our theories of what we expect to come from it. So make sure you come and join us next week as we delve into that. Alright, I'm going to have a look on Twitch and see if we can find someone to raid. Let's see who is actually on and streaming right now. Sorry, you entertain the people, Nitro.
I don't know how to sing or dance, so
now's the perfect time to learn. Go.
I was looking up Ivan's stuff on Twitter, because I remember that David and Goliath illustration that you sent me.
Chronicles of Faith.
Yeah.
Chronicles of Faith.
He's phenomenal.
Yes, he is. He has so many different styles as well, and
yeah, that's what I've seen, because he posted some examples of like Marvel work that I don't know if he's actually done, or that he was trying to pitch it, but it looks just like the Marvel stuff now. Like, it looks fantastic.
Yeah, and such a heart for Christ. I mean, just an amazing brother. The whole crew down there, wonderful people. Just we are really looking forward to what's coming with
That's
Mercy
awesome.
Ways. I'll just leave that there.
Cool.
All right.
It's gonna be big.
Good job, guys. Good job. So we're also going to go over and raid Geek Devotions, another Christian group who are on Twitch. They're streaming Star Wars Battlefront right now. So we're going to go show them some love, go give them some follows, go drop them some subscriptions if you've got the cash or the extra for it, by all means, and just give them some love for us. But we are going to head off. Thank you so much for coming and spending time with us during this interview today. Again, thank you to Brannon from Brainy Pixel coming and just hanging out with us today, talking to us about all the amazing stuff he's got going on. It's been an absolute pleasure having him here, and
appreciate it.
I think we'll definitely get you back on the show again at some point.
That'd be great. Love it. Thank you guys so much.
But everyone, you all have an amazing weekend. I will see you all again tomorrow night. Take care, and Excelsior.
Adios.